Hello, and welcome to another podcast episode of For the Love of Truth. I'm called Adrian. In this episode, we have a long chat with Dr. Amandha Vollmer. Now, I'm going to read you a little bit of her bio just so you can get a feeling of who we're talking to in this interview. She's a 46-year-old mother who holds a degree of Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine from the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine in Toronto and a Bachelor of Science in Agricultural Biotechnology. Most of her life, she's taken a keen interest in botanical medicine, self-educating on the topic for many years before attaining her formal medical training. She sought answers via energetic healing arts and became a registered Reiki practitioner and teacher, among other modalities. She's also the author of Healing with DMSO, a science-backed guide that will help you understand how DMSO works, why it works, and the many ways you can harness its powers to heal your aches, pains, and other ailments, all in an easy-to-read and friendly way. And she also owns and operates Yum Naturals Emporium in Ontario, Canada, where she designs and produces hundreds of handcrafted all-natural body care remedies, and she's done that since 2012. One of the reasons I wanted to speak to Amandha was about DMSO. For those of you who haven't seen my video on DMSO, it is still my most popular video, and it talks about what it does, how to use it, and why every household should have some. And if you want a really interesting read, have a read through the comments on that video. There are some fascinating insights on there. And I would recommend, if you're interested in natural healing, natural treatments, that you have a read of her book on DMSO. There will be links in the show notes for this episode. Now, the episode is long. It was 2 hours and 3 minutes, I believe, and we covered not just DMSO. We talked at length about plants. We talked about the nature of reality. We talked about current affairs. We talked about lawful, legal, common law, some of the problems she's been facing. She's very heavily censored, particularly on YouTube and some of the other channels. And it was just an amazing, insightful conversation, a very deep conversation at times that just flowed beautifully. And I hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed it. And without further ado, I'll pass you on to the conversation, and I will speak to you and see you in the next episode. You guys are amazing. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for giving up some of your afternoon and evening to spend the time talking to us. I first came across your work September last year, although I'm familiar with DMSO. One of the things I wanted to talk about in this discussion was DMSO, but in particular, about how we can take care of our own health, and we should be taking full responsibility for ourselves, particularly now. And the last place you want to go for any kind of healing is an allopathic death ship disguised as a hospital, because they seem to be doing a really good job of doing away with people right now, even more than normal. So I'm not really sure how you want to go about the discussion or anything. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started. And what kind of led you down that path. And then I'll just kick some questions in and we'll see where we go with the conversation, if that's all right with you.
Sounds great.
Okay.
And thank you. Thanks for hosting and having me. And,
You're welcome.
We have to have these conversations. And I think some of the good news about everything that's going on is a lot of people are stuck at home, and they're not just going to watch television. They're going to educate themselves, and they're going to take courses, and they're going to do podcasts, and they're going to listen and figure out things for themselves. So there's a great opportunity here for a lot of learning, and feeling like I'm in that place now where I can teach, and I feel more comfortable teaching because of the, after a period of time where you've read a lot and you've listened to a lot and you've absorbed a lot, just comes this moment in which you feel comfortable to actually start to really share, like that you feel confident to talk about these things. And then, I've been helping people with their health since even before naturopathic college, because it was just natural in me. And people would seek me, and I use that as cues. I used my intuition, and I knew how to grab a book and read a book. And I think some of the big myths about it is actually holistic medicine is not that challenging once you get your principles corrected and your philosophy corrected. It's not that difficult to understand what's going on in your body. And we have to dispel the myths and all of this. The hospitals, the doctors, the institutions, they've made it as if there's this golden calf and you have to bow down to it, and that it's so sophisticated and it's so authoritarian, and it's, you wouldn't know. How could you know something so shiny and glossy as that, just being a commoner, right?
Absolutely.
But
and how dare you ask questions when you turn up as well?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
and that differential between them and us,
Yeah.
and we're, people who are, heart-centered are kind and want to listen to other people and want to, are humble and this sort
Yeah.
of thing, but we need some self-esteem, I think, at this
Hmm.
point, and we need to remember our folk remedies because they're everywhere, and
Yeah.
it was and always was part of our culture to have our folk remedies and know what to do at home. I mean, if you were on a farmstead, right? You don't have hospitals, you don't have these things. You better
Yeah.
figure out what to do if a leg breaks or, if a tree falls and bonks you on the head or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You better know the plants around you. You better know some first aid.
Yeah.
And if you're at home and you don't know what to do, just start learning those things, and
Yeah.
you'll realize there's some common sense in
Hmm.
there. But for me, it was really about connecting to nature, understanding what are all these plants growing around us and why.
Hmm.
Very connected to the animal kingdom, and
Yeah.
I always felt very curious as to why we did all these things to our animals. Why would we bother with them to the extent that we do?
Hmm.
Even though I wanted to be a veterinarian, I realized that it's marketing, it's not health.
Yeah.
Because if you want to get an animal in there and vaccinate them every year or use these toxins to get rid of fleas and ticks and whatever heartworm stories and all of these
Yeah.
sagas that if you're and they manipulate good people, say, well, you're not a good person if you don't go and do this to your pet every year,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff is, I notice, laced in psychological manipulation and not science and not really about caring,
Yeah.
deeply caring. Now, you will always find in these professions individuals and doctors that do care
Yeah.
genuinely. And they're usually the ones they're bleeding hearts and they suffer because
Hmm.
they're in an institution that is the opposite.
Yeah.
It's for money or for profit or for manipulation or whatever. So when I started to learn about that. I read Buckminster Fuller and
Hmm.
when I was in university, and that started to open up my eyes to what is this realm? What is this place? This is not the science we're taught and the
Yeah.
stories. Something's not adding up, right?
It's not
So
really science, though, is it? It's pseudoscience. It's almost like a religion, and scientism. It's because
yes.
it doesn't make any sense. Because as soon as you start to poke it with questions, it falls apart.
Yes, if you do deep thought on it
Mm.
and you question it from all angles, it will fall apart. And
Yeah.
I think the way it's structured in that egoic way is that you're not meant to ask the questions, and that's why they get so angry at you, right?
Yeah.
Because if you do, right, like a narcissist is threatened when you ask questions or actually apply logic to any of their insanity, right? Because
Yeah.
they don't want their house of cards to fall away. They want to
Yeah.
make sure that their story stays true no matter what, and no one likes to be wrong, and especially narcissists don't like to be
No.
wrong. So it's along those lines but on a grander scale. And when you can write the history, when you can do revisionist history, when you have all the power to teach the students a specific way, when you've learned BF Skinner's methods of mind manipulation,
Yeah.
when how to massage people's egos and direct them, and then it becomes like a soap opera. And personally, I'm not interested in drama and soap operas. I'm interested in the divine, and I'm interested in Mother Nature and
Yeah.
why I'm here and my purpose. And
Hmm.
if everyone just got really centered on themselves and asked their inner selves like what they're here for, what their purpose is, they will find it.
Yes.
It's all meant to be found for
Yeah.
us. And this is a really beautiful time to do that because we're given the opportunity and almost being forced in a lot of ways to look hard at
Hmm.
tough stuff, really tough
Hmm.
stuff. So holistically, I started to realize naturally that obviously what you put in your mouth is gonna be part of your cells, right? I knew
Yeah.
that, like that was just logic to me.
Yeah.
You can't just put bad stuff inside your body and expect health to come out. I mean,
Yeah.
I just
You can also put it on your skin. That's another big way of getting stuff in, isn't it?
on, in, and around, it
Yes.
all influences
Yeah.
you, and we're very porous, we're very energetically created, so we have frequency around us, which again, I find it fascinating how people don't think like that, because you know that anything that is living will have a field around it. It's a measurable field.
Yeah.
It is science that we have that. And
Yeah.
so imagine you're walking around with a measurable field and you're interacting with other measurable fields. What's going to happen
Yeah.
to your field, right? But these
Yeah.
are questions we should be asking. This is science we should be doing.
Yeah.
And so I already knew that. I already knew garbage in is garbage out. So I changed my diet at a very young age. I was in my early teen or mid-teens when I became vegetarian, because I didn't like what I found out about factory farming. It upset me very, very much.
Yeah.
And I made that association in my head and I couldn't go back. And
I was the
I
same. I got to 25 and I found that out and I thought, that's it. We're done.
Yeah, I'm like, "You do what to what now? No,
Yeah.
that's wrong."
Yeah.
It's not a really tough logic to go,
No.
"That's just wrong." It's very disrespectful to this beautiful life. Like, all life needs a modicum of respect. Even if you're gonna take a life,
Yeah.
an animal's life, there's
There's
still
ways of
should
doing it.
That's right. So I wasn't at first. I was against all death because had to go through that. I had to
Mhm.
go. I think when we go through our philosophies and our trying to understand who we are and why we're here, if you're a seeker like me, and I was very
Mhm.
existential always, then is it wrong to kill? And if I was taught religion, and I was taught you don't kill. So here I am, we're killing. So what's the difference between killing an animal versus killing a human? Why is it
Mm.
so different? And I need to understand. So I'm going to just stop
Mhm.
until I figure it out. Now, back then, I wasn't really guided. I was just judged for my decision. And so I didn't eat well. I was more just eating cheese and bread, and I wasn't my diet went I threw off my diet the way
Yeah.
that I did that. So I actually got kind of sick. And I learned how to make the corrections. I had to go to the library and look up vegetarian books and understand what I was doing and really
Yeah.
learn how to cook a whole new way, which was
Yeah.
a sharp learning curve for me. And I finally got my health in order, and better than how it was anyway before.
Mhm.
And also I decided to try vegan diet, and then it just ended up I kept trying all the diets because they all had merit. So I have to figure out what works. And
Well,
after
I think
like
that's an important point. Sorry for interrupting you there. That
Mhm.
first of all, when you have a question in mind, not only do you seek the answer, but the answer will seek you. And the
Yes,
other part is that everyone has to find their own way with this. It fascinates me that someone says, "Well, tell me what to do," and I don't want to do that. That's not my job. I'll point you in some directions and say you might find some stuff there, but you have to find your own way with this, because when you get that in here, everything changes.
correct. Absolutely. And to honor people who are going
Yeah.
through that, because
Yeah.
it's so easy to judge.
Mhm.
It is just a lazy way to go, is to just simply judge them and not know why they're doing what they're doing, and understand the history behind their decisions. And
Mhm.
after, I'm 46 now, and I'll be 46 and 47 in August. And I
What
think
what date?
I think I forget my own birthday after you hit 45. But anyway,
What?
August 5th.
Oh, okay. I'm 57 on September the 2nd, I think.
Yeah, exactly, right? You're like,
I thought
"Yeah,
I
it
was
doesn't matter."
57 last year, and I thought Saturday afterwards went, "Oh, I'm a year younger
I
than I
did
thought."
the same thing. I did the exact same thing, and I was like,
Yeah.
"I gained a whole year. I already thought I was 46. Geesh." Okay. But yeah, what I realized though is that I had to go through the journey that I had to go through, and that's not everybody's journey, and I don't expect it to be everybody's
No.
journey. But also, that there's no one correct diet. There's just no one there's a correct diet for every individual on this earth,
Yeah.
and that's right for you. And so, yes, if your diet is paleo and that's helping you, yes,
Mhm.
are you getting well from it? Are you feeling better? Are you having more energy? Are you sleeping better? You're pooping better?
Yeah. Well, we
Is your
we need to
mood
come
better?
back to that because that is massively critical.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then, but I've heard people, they'll say, "Oh, I did paleo for a while, and now I don't feel good anymore. I did, but now I don't." And then
Mhm.
they change again, right? So, but that's fine too, because maybe that diet was just cleansing for them, or
Mhm.
it gave them an element that they were missing in their
Mhm.
diet previously, and now they fulfilled the missing nutrient, and the body says, "We're good now. You can move on."
Mhm.
And so over time, I've actually learned in my reality, in my with my body, is I like to try to eat seasonally. I try to eat
Yeah.
what comes around.
Yeah.
And so in the winter, I'll eat a lot more tubers. I'll eat a lot more fermented foods and things that would be either available because we have long winters here, or that
Hmm.
we've stored ahead of time, more store foods. And
Hmm.
then obviously in the spring, I'm going to eat all the fresh leaves. Like once the dandelion leaves hit, those go into the salad.
They're
Those
amazing.
amazing. And it's time to do a liver cleanse at that point, and
Yeah.
it's time to listen to what nature is trying to provide to you. Because if you do that, if you pick what's on your lawn and eat it rather than try to poison it, you do way better
Well,
as far as
I was talking
health.
to Tom Barnett the other night, and we were talking about the idea that if you eat local plants and drink local water, that you're actually, it's all containing local information about toxicity, irradiation, all sorts of problems, and it will help benefit you because you're part of this information community. And that when you get an apple that comes from halfway across the planet, it's not the right information for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's as if it's fine-tuned to you.
Yeah.
And I read a series of books actually, called The Ringing Cedars of Russia series.
Amazing books.
Yes, amazing books, very vital reading. I
Yeah.
would recommend it to anybody. I think there's 9 or 10 books. I've read
Yeah.
them all.
Yeah.
And in that, Anastasia teaches about actually even making the plants one layer next close to you, which is to soak the seeds in your mouth, to show them to the
Yeah.
sky,
Yeah. Yeah.
to inform them of
Yeah.
your metabolic situation. You even
Yeah.
wash and rinse your body's. You take that rinse water of your body and you feed it to the plant, and it
Yeah.
will grow its medicine more specifically
Yeah.
nuanced for your
And add your
needs.
urine to the plants as well, because you're part of
Your
this complete cycle.
Exactly, exactly. And I've done this. I've done
Hmm.
this, and
They grow better.
they grow better. You have a different relationship with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful experience. You can.
I joined a local community garden, and they were laughing at me. I was telling Tom that when I first went down there, and I said, "What do I do?" Because I'd wanted to do this for a while. I'd never done it. And they said, "Well, you need to get some tools and dig those potatoes." And I was like, "Well, these are tools. I'll just get to it." And I've got strong hands anyway, but I was talking to the plants and explaining why I was doing it, what I was doing. And one of the women said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, they're going to become part of our energy system, and I'm going to take some of these myself. I just want to thank them for what they're doing." So I've got that connection energetically to it because that will do the right thing with it.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, coming back to just respect,
Yeah.
just a simple, loving respect
Yeah.
and gratitude it will go a very long way with these things, with all
Mhm.
in life in general. But
Yeah.
when you're gardening, you're focusing on your gardening. I remember I read a book in my youth from Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist monk, the Tibetan Buddhist monk,
Mm.
and it was called The Way, I think, the Way or the Path. And anyway, he was talking about in Tibetan Buddhism, because I did formally practice that for a couple of years. I was very interested in that particular
Mhm.
religion. And it was about in the moment, and when you're washing the dishes or when you're sweeping the floor or when you're gardening, you are doing that action. Aren't washing the dishes to get the dishes washed.
Yeah.
You're washing the dishes to be present with the dishes,
Yeah.
right? And when you start to switch the way that you do things energetically, you actually can warp time. You can change your presentation or your interaction with time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can be time travelers just by
Yeah.
shifting your focus. It's
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, you could just watch paint dry and you know that little trick, right? But
Yeah.
it's this, or watch, listen to a kettle about to boil. When will it
Yeah.
boil? You can
Or
extend
have a
time.
conversation with someone and you think, where did the last hour go?
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we know that time is also part of this illusion,
Mhm.
and that we are trying to again get to the core fundamental values of
Yeah.
what we are. And if you
Mhm.
lose your values, then you're demoralized. And that's what's going on right now. Is there's an agenda afoot to work to demoralize us so that
Mhm.
we don't care about each other anymore. We don't care about what's happening anymore. We become unmotivated, depressed, lethargic,
Mhm.
and lazy, and so forth. Like the sloth sets in, right?
Mhm.
So we need to find that spark again in our lives. And it starts simply with just washing the dishes to wash the dishes. And it will get you into like a Zen meditative, but in an active meditation rather than
Mhm.
like a sitting yin meditation. It's more of a
Mhm.
yang action, and it
Hmm.
will focus your mind, because this is all a war for the mind, everything going on here. So
100%.
you
Yeah.
need to, work your mind.
Hmm.
And then know what's around you, learn what's around you. I started, so I went to naturopathic college. It's a 4-year medical degree, right? So I had my science degree, which was 4 years, because you have to have that as a
Hmm.
prerequisite. And after that, we learned all about these plants. Obviously, we had to learn botanical medicine in
Hmm.
holistic
That
medicine
must
field.
have been so interesting.
It was it was fascinating, but
Yeah.
as in most med schools, they run you ragged. They wear you down, they make you tired, because when you go
That
through
sounds like
that,
psychological torture.
it's like in a cult that where they'll only give you a couple hours sleep a night, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they work you to the bone, and so to shape you in
Hmm.
order to manipulate your beliefs coming out, right?
Yeah.
So that but what happened was, then I didn't really learn the plants the way I should have learned the plants. I learned the plants on the book level. I
Hmm.
learned the Latin names, I learned the constituents, I learned what you would use it for, and if it's better to tincture it or if it's better in a
So
tea, and
you
that sort
didn't
of
you
thing.
didn't learn it in here then?
No, no. We had a garden called the Paracelsus Garden in the back, and I would visit it and I would look at it, but it still wasn't where I needed to go with it. And
Hmm.
and so once I came out of the city and I bought land and I began to learn how to garden. I how to chop wood, carry water. I did all of these things.
Yeah.
And I started to go, okay, what's growing up around me? What's here? Oh, there's nettles. There's nettles around there. Okay. I learned about nettles in school. What do they look like though? I mean, really, and how do they grow?
It's a
So
phenomenal
then
plant.
absolutely. And how tender in where, like what soils and how much sunlight. And then you're like, wow, now I'm really learning about details of
Hmm.
this plant, right? How to harvest it, how to properly dry it, how to preserve it, how long it lasts, like all of these things.
Wow.
So I learned all of the what was around me, just
Hmm.
little by little. Go out and identify it with your eyes. And it's not just like, oh, there's the beautiful plant, la da 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 da. It's what's it look like in the spring? What's it look
Yeah.
like when it's budding? What's it look like when it's flowering? What's it look like when it's about to drop its seeds?
Hmm.
What's it look like when it's the roots coming into the roots, right? And all
Hmm.
of these different spots. So there's
Hmm.
so much knowledge there,
Hmm.
and it's endless. I think the learning is meant to be endless,
Well, I
because
think it is. Well, it's our journey home, isn't it? Someone said to me, "Why are you trying to learn all this stuff?" And I said, "I'm not trying to learn anything. I'm simply trying to remember what I know we've all forgotten. That's all."
exactly. And there is a familiarity. There is
Yeah.
a warmness when you get to that point where you're like, this is
Yeah.
home to me, or
Well,
this
yeah,
feels
you can
right.
feel it. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
that sense of deja vu almost, and you think, "Yeah, I should be here. I've been here. I remember this."
Yes. Yes. And we all have specific gifts and abilities as well, and so you'll learn whether that's part of your set of gifts and abilities that you're meant to
Hmm.
practice in this life or not, and you'll know when you have to ask someone else to bring in that knowledge for you, right?
Hmm.
But everyone can garden and throw some seeds in the ground and
Yeah.
learn about plants. I
Hmm.
think that's meant for us all. So as far as really understanding health, it becomes simplified. It becomes about listening.
Yeah.
It becomes about looking
But it's
around.
not just listening with your ears, is it? It's listening with your
No.
entire being. You're feeling it.
Yeah, I like to describe it, and this is not my description, because I've read many Buddhist texts and all kinds of information. So I'm not sure of the person who taught me this, but there were two sets of everything. You have the outer eye
Hmm.
and the inner eye. You have the outer speech and the inner speech, the outer ear, inner ear, outer heart, inner heart, all of the senses and all of the parts of the
Hmm.
body. You have an outward and an inward.
Hmm.
And so you need to chisel both of
Hmm.
them for mastery, for true mastery,
Yeah.
because that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in mastering
Yeah.
this life, mastering the self,
Yeah.
not for any ego concerns. In fact,
No.
it's quite the opposite.
Hmm.
I want to always look at the ego and understand the ego, and where has my ego bruised me, or
Well, I think it has its place, but it's when it becomes this big narcissistic monster that you have a problem. That's what the system seems to encourage. Whereas you were talking about chiseling the inside and the outside. What I've noticed is you can only do that if you get really quiet, because the inner world is a much more subtle, delicate, quiet world, and you have to work the same way in there. You can't do it when there's lots of noise and distraction going on.
That's right. And a lot of people I notice will distract themselves purposefully
Yeah.
to avoid
Yeah.
looking within for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
And, I've said this in before that, we need to be able to forgive ourselves, and we need to be able to be okay with being wrong. And that's how
Mhm.
we master anything, is by making mistakes and learning from them. And if we'll never learn from the mistake, then we're never going to grow. We're just going to stagnate. And then the incarnation will end, or there'll be a degrading of the self. And that's not really ideally. If someone were to look back, on themselves on the path where they've awakened,
Mhm.
and look and seen a split in their story, they would never choose the degrading path. They would
No.
never would have wanted that for themselves.
No.
So that's something to really reflect upon. And you're right, you have to get quiet. You have to do inner, close the eyes and shut out the sound, and just really listen what's going on inside yourself. And it
Yeah.
doesn't
And
have to be this huge thing. It can
no, well,
just be 10
it's
minutes.
tiny steps, isn't it? You're right. 10 minutes. I've meditated between 15 minutes and maybe 40 minutes every day now for 47 years. And it's great, but it's one of the best. And it doesn't, people say you got to sit down and do this. No, you don't. You might just go for a walk in nature and just be present with the sound of the wind through the leaves or the birds or something, and just stay with that. And that changes everything. And someone said, well, what about making mistakes? And I went, mistakes? I said, I make mistakes constantly. And the older I get and the more I go through, the more I realize I know jack shit about anything, but I'm enjoying the journey of letting everything go and starting to really get to grips with it. And one of the most important things, I was talking to someone the other day and I said, look, what's going on out there is completely irrelevant to me, because it's a reflection of what's happening inside here. So if I want to change that, I'm doing more inner work than ever, because I don't like what I'm seeing. So I need to be changing inside me so my view changes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the holographic nature of what we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And it goes back, there's lots of therapies that go with this understanding, and there's Ho'oponopono that discusses
Mm-hmm.
this knowledge. And it's definitely a sore spot for some people who are very logical and analytical and haven't developed some of those more delicate senses, or the ones that are, needing that refinement, because not everyone's built the same. I felt like I had some of these things coming in
Mm-hmm.
already, so I had a little bit of an advantage
Mm-hmm.
in that regard, But I went through some serious meditation retreats and things that were, I did Vipassana, for example. That's 10 days of a silent retreat,
Wow.
and practiced that for many years, going from that. And so now when I go into meditation, like when I go inside, it's too sad. I'm there, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to play with the monkey mind for whatever, and make my lists and whatever's happening before
Yeah.
I can settle right away, so I can
Yeah.
get, that merit is there to build upon. So
Yeah.
it's, I think for people now, I know you were asking about how we can really avoid hospitals and avoid
Mm-hmm.
walking into the illusion and getting trapped in it, or
Yeah.
getting pulled into drama.
Yeah.
And this is always something that's on my mind, because they're constantly trying to pull me into drama, and
That's their
get me into,
job.
yes, get you into court. You're doing something wrong. You can't sell without our authorization. You can't make products
I,
from nature without our
I did
authorization.
notice, by the way, that you did something very intelligent and very smart, that you've decided to take yourself into the private and become by appointment only. And that is absolutely critical to people moving forwards, that you remove yourself from this fictional public realm where they want to control everything.
Exactly. And we're
By the
all
way,
doing
speaking of court, by the way, funnily enough, and it's a very quick story, I had some problems to do with a driving infraction several years ago. And I handled that with an affidavit process where they wouldn't even let me in the courtroom. I had to sit with the prosecutor in an anteroom. And when I tried to walk in the courtroom, he put his hand on my chest and slammed the door and pushed me into the hallway. And then came out and said, "Thank you very much. You can go." And that was the end of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've done that before. I've had that before happen,
Now,
and
I
I'm
did have
doing
my
it
heart in
again.
my mouth when I did it, because I didn't know if it was going to work, but I'm sure glad it did. And it was a very good reference point moving forwards.
And that is what prevents people from actually getting that achievement,
Yes.
because they don't, they feel the fear and they pull away,
Yeah.
instead of feeling the fear and going into it,
Yeah.
into the
Well,
fear.
in my
Mm.
experience, when you have fear, it's like people say you want to avoid the darkness. I think you want to inspect the darkness around yourself, because all you're going to discover with your own light is more of you sitting in there waiting to be found.
Yeah, that's well said. It's
Yeah.
exactly that.
Yeah.
And then you realize there truly isn't an enemy.
No.
I mean, I talk about the enemy from a 3D perspective
Hmm.
sometimes, just as an analogy,
Hmm.
like know thine enemy or know, but it's really about knowing the darkness and
Yeah.
knowing the shadow and understanding that this is all part of us and we're
Yeah.
working through as a collective right now.
Yeah.
We're working through some deep subconscious wounding
Yeah.
that we're bringing into the light of consciousness so that we can heal it, so that
Yeah.
we can
And
alter
that's why it
and
looks so
replace.
horrible and it's so terrifying for so many people. But I was talking to a group the other day, and I have never felt so calm and so peaceful despite all the turmoil, because I can see and feel that at some stage, and I don't know how long and how bad it might get in the meantime, when we get there, we're going to see some amazing stuff, because this veil of darkness and hatred and disparity and everything will be taken away, because, as you say, we're healing it collectively.
And they're afraid of that darkness, that when you
Mm.
shine the light on it, what happens? It slams the door in your face. Like,
Yep.
you can't come in here, because
Yep.
if you shine the light on us, we're going to be seen, and we don't like that.
That's
And that
right.
means
Yeah.
we're also gone, right? Because
Yeah.
it's just a shadow, which
Yeah.
means there's no substance to
Yeah.
it.
It's all a shadow
So
play. All of this is.
yes, it's all a shadow play. So when you
Mm.
start again, it's like reframing the mind and making those corrections from the baseline of
Yeah.
your thinking, and then
Yeah.
going forward, you'll understand the rest. The rest will come into place. You don't have to stress about the little details
Yeah.
so much, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's very unscientific thing to say, of course, and
Very
she's
accurate
just
too.
well, but that's why I think the scientific model is such a make work project for so many things, that it's just
Yeah.
a waste of time and energy. Because if you know how the world is working from a baseline perspective, then all of that is assumed. You already know how it would move forward from
Yeah.
there. So
I
like
think
I
the other
know
problem
that
with it,
if
sorry,
no, go ahead.
was going to say the other problem is that the whole scientific model, it's like the whole education model. It's designed to take you into the left side of your brain, lift you out of your body, out of your heart, out of your gut, out of everything, and hold you there, which is the only element that we can control. Whereas when you are working on both sides of your brain and through your entire body, it's impossible to control you, because all of the signals and all of the messages are telling you what's actually going on.
And why do you think they've worked so diligently to co-opt our artists and the music and the
Yeah.
drama, and all of the arts
Yep.
have been taken? And
Yeah.
if you're not in the big club and you don't agree with, the cult doctrine,
Yeah.
then you don't get contracts, you don't get seen, you don't get
Yeah.
all that stuff, right?
That's
So
right. Yeah.
but that's changing, and
Mm.
that's where we're at in this rebellion that we're in. We're making our own path, because I know of people that I'm working with. We're making like I said, we're putting our business into the private.
Yeah.
They don't have jurisdiction over us. We're
No.
going into more tribal law, so
In
that
fact, here you go.
you know just bring that closer.
Sorry.
What's it say?
Notice
Notice
private by
private
appointment
by
only.
point. Yes.
Their business
Yes.
cards, I had them laminated, and I just give them out, and we stick them on people's doors, on their houses,
Brilliant.
everything.
Yeah, it's in the private. It's none of
Yeah,
their business.
that's right.
Public health. They're considered all these
That's right.
public things. We're not public,
No,
and
we're not persons either,
yeah.
and they seem to they struggle to get their head around that.
Yeah, I don't know why, because it's not that difficult. I mean, if you make a piece of paper when you put somebody's name on it, and now you've used that as the charge, and you're doing all this accounting with that name,
Yep. Yep.
but I'm not. And am I a name? No, I'm a flesh living
Well,
being,
when
right?
I was
So
growing up, Amanda, we would say, people, what are you called? And this name thing came much later on. I don't know when it popped up, but the name is the name of the person. Things have names. I'm
yeah,
called Adrian. And I say that on the videos, and I say that to people. So, what's your name? I haven't got one. I'm a man. I'm called Adrian. And I'll only
that's right.
answer to my calling. And it's about getting a different mindset. And it's remembering, putting yourself back together and saying, no, this is what I am. Has anyone got
Yeah.
any proof I'm not a living, breathing man or a living, breathing woman like you are? No, no one can stand that. And all of a sudden, at that point, you're not a person, and these things don't apply. Because if you look at all the statute books and the acts, when they're not laws, you look at them, they only apply to persons. Well, if you've already established you're a man or a woman, how can they have any validity? And why are you even having a discussion with me?
Yeah.
And I've
And
said
they'll
that plenty of
try
times to people.
tricks.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah, well, they're dark magicians, and they're used to tricking people. But when you stand your ground and ask questions, they don't know what to do.
No, they don't. And you, as king, ask king, right? As a
Yep.
king, you
Yeah.
ask king, and you're the one who asks and
Yeah.
directs the court,
Yep.
actually. If you're
That's right.
coming
Yeah.
in appropriately,
Yeah.
then you're saying, judge, do this, this is dismiss this is not
Yeah.
valid based on this
Yeah.
information.
If
And they're
indeed you
supposed to
ever
do
get
that.
to the courtroom, if you do it right,
If you
you
do,
shouldn't have to
yeah,
get
you
there.
don't.
Yeah.
No, and I haven't to this day. Like since I've gone through
Yeah.
that, I've learned how to not
Yeah.
get pulled in.
Yeah.
They try, but then you
Yeah.
serve the affidavits and they're like, whoa,
Yeah.
right? And I serve
Well,
my fee schedule too.
that,
So
yeah, that's the killer. That's the
yeah,
killer. I mean, it
yeah.
just for those people listening, it's worth looking into that some more and working through it to get a deep understanding of it. It's not complex. It just takes time. You can't, it's like learning to walk. You didn't suddenly stand up one day and say, I've had it with crawling, I'm going to walk today. It takes
Hmm.
a while and you fall down and you bang your head and you get cut and that happens. But over time, you get better. And what I've found is the better you get at that kind of process, in the end, the system leaves you alone because you are too troublesome and it wants nothing to do with you. And you have a very peaceful time after. Yeah, it might wear its head once in a while, but you just give it a slap, do the right
Hmm.
paperwork, and you're gone again.
There's no injured party. There's
Nope.
no, you're not hurting anyone. You're not
Yep.
doing anything that would cause a controversy.
Yep.
So then
Well, that's the key because they want to drag you into that because they're very good. You must
yeah,
never refuse anything. You can only decline offers.
that's right.
Yeah.
And that's, I did actually decline the ticket and the summons that came my way for,
Summons is an invitation, don't you?
yes.
Yeah.
And they keep summoning me. I keep not going and they keep
Yeah.
summoning me. I keep
Yeah.
not going, keep summoning me. I said, you don't understand. I've already responded, no contract. So I don't
Yeah.
know why you keep inviting me. It's nice, but
Thanks very
I'm
much, but
not,
no.
thanks, but no. So I now have to send formal paperwork to encourage that they understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying because they're still continue. They've summoned me like 3 times now. It's
Well,
like,
it's notice
it's
conditional acceptance.
harassment.
Yeah.
What's that? Say that again?
Notice of conditional acceptance. And one of the most
Yeah,
powerful things you can do
totally.
is trespass. So, if whatever they do, my first response always these days is I don't consider it to be that as an offer. I consider it to be trespass by way of harm. And if you continue, then I expect this much compensation. And it's a big number.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
As per my fee schedule, and it's actually in silver species. So
It's the best way.
yeah, it's the best way. Don't need those Fiat doll hairs.
Yeah,
Thanks.
really. Yeah. Quiet.
But this is the same thing. This is mirrored in law and it's
Yep.
mirrored in health. There's a
Yes.
very similar
Yeah.
bent. And then you could make other correlations
Yeah.
that the key is understanding your divinity and your inherent power and standing up in that despite
Yeah.
what's might frighten you in the moment or
Mhm.
make you a little bit unsure. You have to go through that and you have to trust. You have to have this faith that what is fundamental in this place for law, I mean,
Mhm.
true natural law of this place
Yeah.
stands, and that they cannot go about any other way around that. Like
No.
you have free will and you are that. And once you claim that, they can't actually do it away with you because they actually are very devout in their
Mhm.
religion.
Yeah.
And like so, and it's us anyway. And so
Yeah.
the law is the law is the law, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about like legal statutes law. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the earthly law of this
Yeah.
place, right?
Natural
So
law. Well,
there's
the law of this realm,
yeah,
if you will.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds abstract, but I think the main thing is that so say, I'll give an example from a healthcare standpoint. Say you have someone who's going through a healing crisis and it's looking not nice. Doesn't look nice on the outside. It looks a little bit scary, actually.
Mhm.
And you have to manage the healing crisis so that the body the life force can overcome it
Mhm.
and then get through it. And there's a lot of detoxing. There could be hives, there could be rashes, there could be
Mhm.
fever, there could be bowels
And
moving,
and
whatever,
people
right?
see that as the illness, and it's not. It's the symptom of the detoxification.
It's the correction, it's the
Yeah.
body
Yeah.
working. And if you shift your perspective and you understand that the body is actually having a process that is proper
Mhm.
and it's meant to do that, and if you
Mhm.
help it along, then you'll get the result you need. And even though what it looks like on the outside can make you scared because of just, maybe lack of experience or whatever. But
Mhm.
after a while, once you've gone through some of these things, like I've been through all the courts and done all the things and done, and it doesn't upset me now. It's like, yeah, 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 whatever, right? Like this sort of thing. And
Mhm.
so I don't want to be toyed with. I don't want to be bothered about. So I'm going to still make sure I'm respectful
Mhm.
right? Because I'm not a savage, because I want to make sure that they're like saying, well, if you're if you're that, you're not a savage, right? So
Mhm.
then you go forward like that. So it's what I'm saying is that it might look like something on the outside, but it's actually still, it's going to be okay. And if you trusted and you went through it, just like I had a child, okay, that was scary. I mean,
Mhm.
my body was doing things I couldn't have predicted because I'd never had a child before. So how would I know? I'd watched other women have children, but until you go through it, right? And once I had that normal, natural birth without any intervention, I realized that how powerful this body is, and
Oh God,
that
yeah.
everything is perfect. And the only time you get real problems is when you've meddled with it, when you've messed around with it.
Mhm.
You've messed around with your life, and then you can have issues, right? So
Mhm.
once you get pulled into it, it always makes more. One intervention begets more intervention, begets more
Mhm.
intervention.
Mhm.
That's why you just don't contract in the first place,
Yeah.
basically.
Absolutely,
But
yeah.
that's a luxury that not everybody has. So we also have to be considerate around other people who they've already been vaccine damaged.
Mhm.
They've already had issues
Yeah.
at their healthcare
Mhm.
that they're now just mitigating, and they're trying to get around. And it's the
Mhm.
same story with me, right? So I always have to be very attentive to my health in a more diligent manner because of the history that I had happen, which happened in my childhood. My parents were making those decisions and they didn't
Mhm.
have the right information. So
But if they hadn't made those decisions, you wouldn't have taken the path you've taken, and then you wouldn't be having the experience you're having and helping the people where you helped them. So it was extremely valid and relevant and important that that happened.
exactly. And that's why the challenges come. That's why we
Yeah.
have strife,
Yeah.
up to a point, right? But we're meant to learn, and we're meant to have the shaping of our existence. And that's how you can just become really in acceptance. You
Mhm.
accept all of where you are and how you are and what you've been what
Mhm.
you've developed into. And then if you can look back in gratitude to that, and imagine how you could even rewrite your story and rewrite
Mhm.
your history so that you're not a victim anymore, because
Well,
this whole
absolutely. I mean, one of the things
yeah.
I've learned to do is I surrender to the condition. I'm going to put this carefully because I might say it wrong. I don't want people to get the wrong impression. It's the best way I've found to do it is I will surrender to my life, but I will not surrender to the conditions of my life. In other words, I will
Yes.
accept what is going on. I will look for how it's going to serve me, or I will say, actually, this isn't serving me at all. I'm going to take this as a lesson. This is something to be avoided moving forwards. But I don't
Mhm.
push against it because we're conditioned to push, and there is no energy in push. We should move through it. We can pull sometimes. We're much stronger pulling. I noticed that with all my training and stuff, but
Mhm.
it's about taking that route and you feel your way through it. Whenever I try and think my way through a problem, I make such a mess of it. But if I
Mhm.
feel my way through the problem, then everything works out just fine.
It's so true, and then trusting that what you
Yeah.
feel,
Yeah.
especially when you have all these opinions coming all over the place and
Yeah.
filling your mind with doubt, and then you're not sure, but if you just clear that and come back to center and come back to yourself, you'll know
Yeah.
what to do, right? It just takes a little bit of time,
Yeah.
a little bit of settling down. And
Mhm.
so imagine all this external nonsense, right? Coming at
Yeah.
people, television telling you what to do, and news media telling you what to do, and all of these things. And loved ones who they mean well, but they don't have all the information, or they definitely don't know your body telling you what to do.
Yep.
And you've got all these sound boards in your head bouncing
Yeah.
around, and they're like, so what do you do? That's where you cut those cords away,
Mhm.
and you just have to sit with yourself until you figure it out for yourself,
Yeah.
and you'll know what it is. And it might be weird. That's, I think, the hardest thing that at least what I had to go through, is sometimes the answer was really,
But
really,
trust it.
yeah, I had to trust it. And it's faith. That's faith. To me, that's ultimate faith, is when you hear that and you go, okay. And you do it and you're like, whoa,
Well,
okay.
I'm at the point now, the more weird it feels, the more it's probably right. And I just get on with it.
Yeah. And I'm not getting, this is new now. Like, I'm not getting by. Just getting
Mhm.
by isn't not enough.
No,
So I'm not contracting with the devils anymore.
no.
Health Canada stole my .com domain, and
Less than.
refused to give it back. Bless them. Exactly. We have .store now, so we're fine.
Yeah.
But I'm moving everything into the private. So,
Yeah.
and they want me to to sign things for them and do this, and I'm just,
Of
yep.
course they do, because
They
you're walking away from their control.
That's right. So I'm definitely going to decline the
Yeah.
offer and then, give them my affidavit. And if they can answer those questions, by all means, I will sign their documents. But until they do, I don't really trust them with what they are trying to tell me is right for my business and for health of people and this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's all. But you don't do it with malice, and I think
Nope.
that's what we really, because you do not battle, you do
No.
not battle.
No.
If you're gonna battle, you better have a real sharp sword, and you better have some skills
I
there,
I
because
don't I don't think you're going to win. You're up
you're not
against a
gonna win.
machine which is
Yeah.
ready for that. What it's not ready for is something that I think we are incredibly talented with and at. We are super sensitive beings of light, energy, and frequency. And we have the ability, if we still ourselves, to feel our way around all sorts of very difficult situations with such finesse and speed and elegance that
Mhm.
they're a very blunt instrument. They're like a big hammer, and everything to them looks like a nail. Well, if you simply stop being a nail, they can't hit you anymore.
That's right. Exactly. And
Mm.
they don't even know what to do with that. So
Yeah,
they just, it's an anomaly,
yeah,
and they walk away. They
yeah,
focus elsewhere.
yeah,
So it's there are fascinating lessons, and this is a very um, spiritual conversation that we're having. That's um, you know taking it to the next level of our real soul adulthood, which is
yeah,
where I think many of us have been hoping to align with others who are also in their spiritual adulthood,
yeah,
and many are still kicking and screaming in their adolescence,
yeah,
um, and but that's none of our business at this point, because the new offer is upon us, and that is the new path opening up, and that
yeah,
is saying, well, we're going to be spiritually adult now, so we
yeah.
won't need these other systems, and
Mhm.
so we're going to go ahead and we're going to make the responsible systems, which
Yeah. Well,
are
we have to
way more
create some
elegant.
systems. Yeah, we have to create
Mhm.
them. And this is, I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, look, when I write software sometimes, and I design database platforms as well on occasion, and time and again, I get given something, and someone says, "Can you fix that?" And I usually look at it and go, "No." But what I will do is create an elegant solution that actually works, because you're asking me to fix something which is completely busted. And why would I? Because it'll just get more busted. And
Mhm.
and that's what we have to do. That's our job here, I think, isn't, I said dismantle the system, and I'm not sure that's accurate. I think it's simply to recreate more elegant, more supportive, more conducive systems that allow us to become more of who we are and are more supportive of all life.
And that's the natural progression.
Yeah.
Like I said, you don't have to fight the existing system. You
Yeah.
don't do that. You don't waste your energy. And many of us have been caught into that. And it's because that's how we learn how that doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
We obviously fight it, and we do the lawsuits, and we do, okay, wait a second, it doesn't
Yeah.
actually work. Nothing changes. How many times have we seen all they're suing Bill Gates or whatever, and
Yeah.
how many
Yeah.
times that guy's been sued? Nothing's going to stop a guy who has trillions of dollars. Okay.
No.
So no, what's going to make things obsolete in that energy is when you start to be in alignment, and you build the systems that other people, like I said, when they look back on their path, on their choices,
Yeah.
they go, well, that's the toiling path. And maybe if they're still into toiling, they'll stay in toiling. But
Hmm.
if they're done toiling and they want to move forward, then they'll
Yeah.
go, that's better.
Yeah.
I like that. And then the old system naturally fades, because who wants it?
Yeah.
Right. And
Plus,
that's
energy
the other
follows
thing.
thought. And when you start to ignore stuff, it withers and dies because you're not feeding it energy. And that's what the system craves. It needs your energy. That's why it does anything it can to distract you.
Yeah, like,
Anything.
look at me, like
Yeah.
a clown show, like a
Yeah.
circus. That's
Yeah.
really, I mean, and look at all our analogies of it. It's like clown faces and circus show,
Yeah.
and confusion, and you're like, I don't even know who's who, and if they are even lying or not lying, or if
Yeah.
there's enough, right?
Yeah.
Focus on the things we know are there for us. Nature is there. It's right
Hmm.
outside, and you can connect with the earth, and you can get grounded with the earth, and you can get nourished,
Yes.
and then
And
others are
healed,
there and healed,
because
and you're
everything you need is outside in the garden.
everything,
Yeah.
absolutely everything. And we need to work on loving the soils again and fixing our
Yes.
soils,
Yeah.
because this is where, I'm not, personally, I'm not interested in, like, I sell a lot of supplements. I have a lot of these sorts of things.
Hmm.
The only reason I've had to actually resort to it is because people won't eat right,
Yeah.
and I have to have something. I have to correct them somehow.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
I've
Well,
had to
plus also
use
the
them.
soil's been so terribly damaged that
Yeah.
I was talking to Tom about this, and we're both of the same opinion that really the ideal thing is to correct it with nutrition and food, but that's not applicable. It is applicable to everyone. It's not possible for so many people because of what's happened to
Yeah.
the soil. But if you start to nurture the soil and you start to use the proper techniques on the soil, right? For Christmas this year, I wanted some copper gardening tools because they're the proper way to work in the earth.
Yes.
And so it's about doing things like that, because when you do that, the amount of supplementation you require goes down and down and down, because the quality of the food goes up. I read something that said that an apple in my grandparents' time is the equivalent of 40 apples today in terms of nutrition.
Oh my goodness.
And I
And
can't
people
eat that
don't
many apples.
recognize it. There's no way. There's no way. I mean, even if you juice, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's ridiculous, right?
yeah.
That's the state, and that's the issue. And then you've got stress. Stress management is humongous. It's
Yes.
just, and this is why I
Well,
find,
breathing helps with that, because what I've
oh,
noticed a lot of people do is
breathing.
they breathe really high up here and they stop breathing
Yes.
low down, and they panic. And then I said to him, "You're having a panic attack and you're feeling anxiety because you're starving every cell of oxygen, and that's what you're doing. So just slow your breathing down." And we were counting it out. I breathe about 6 times a minute, maybe five, and they're deep and
Yeah.
slow and rhythmic. And if I start to feel stressed, my breathing's changed.
Yes, and you'll notice immediately when something's happened with your
Yep.
breathing, and
Yes.
then you get introspective and you question what's happened.
Yeah.
And if you were in tune enough with your body, you would know every little nuance and every little change that occurred, and you would then make a correction. I
Yeah.
mean, I cannot eat white sugar. I don't know how people do it. I really don't. I cannot. If I put that poison into my body, and I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't take a lot.
No.
I get inflamed. I get migraines. I will just be a wreck for days. That's like,
Mhm.
it's not even worth it. People go, "Oh, I just wanted a treat." How is that a treat?
It's a
You know
poison,
what? It's poison. You're not treating anything.
and it's addictive.
It's addictive. Yeah, more like one thing begets another, right?
Yeah.
Because it's starting to feed all these deeper lineages of microbes that are like,
Yeah.
oh, now we're more acidic and we want more
Yeah.
food, right? So yeah, it's definitely one of the things I avoid completely, in
Mhm.
my diet. Why do you love yourself? It comes down to, do you love, I'm not talking about ego love. I'm talking about, do you respect
Mhm.
that you are a soul having an experience in this existence,
Yeah.
and that you are of divine origin, and that we are all connected in some deeper way that we don't have maybe the cognition to understand. But
Mhm.
if you have that within you, then why would you do self-harm? Why would you
Yeah.
hurt yourself?
Yeah.
And here we have a ritual going on of self-harm with the masking. It's all a cult ritual and a hazing ritual to say,
Exactly.
you're bad, you're shame, be in
Yeah.
shame
Yeah.
of who you are, of breathing, of your,
Yeah.
to consider that the very beautiful breath that you
Yeah.
exhale is
That
somehow
breathes
going to
life
hurt
into
someone.
all the plants in the plant kingdom. They can't live without our breath, and we can't live without what they exhale. We've got such an intimate relationship. And then you put your own mask on and you poison all that.
That's right. You absolutely alter it. And it's, we have all if you want to be didactic about it, we have all the evidence that it
Yeah.
does considerable harm. And trust me, that will be in the affidavit. um, but it's now, you have to ask that to yourself. You have to ask that question to yourself. Do you care about yourself enough
Yeah.
to, stop hurting yourself like that?
Yeah.
And so deep breathing is key, and being aware of all the little things you're doing in your life that are harming you. Like
Mhm.
if you are ingesting foods that are poisoned, like with
Mhm.
pesticides and so forth, or they've
Mhm.
altered their genes structure, or even if you microwave them. I learned about microwave damage a long time ago in my chemistry, actually my organic chemistry class
Mhm.
helped me understand it, because you have proteins in the food, and you have, so with molecules, when you look down at that, you've got different, they're called dimers. So you could have all the same constituents of molecules, and they could be this way, or they could be in the mirror this way,
Mhm.
right? So they have an L or a D dimer, like a
Mhm.
different shape. So it's the same constituents, but it's in the mirror. And our bodies it cannot take the D side, or the right-handed side of it, right? They can only do the L. So that's why I see like L-glutamine and all these amino acids that are L.
Mhm.
We can't do the other flip.
That
And
makes sense.
microwaves cause the dimers to break and flip continually until the heating is done. So the microwave energy does that. So you've just now degraded your food a substantial amount. Technically, you could say up to 50% now. You've got less amino acids available to your body. So now you've taken food that's already degraded and you've degraded it further. Why would you do that to yourself? Why wouldn't you have more concentrated food? You don't even need to eat as much when your food is.
You know what we use our microwave for? Because I can't, when I got together with Helen, this will make you laugh. I came down and said, there's a problem with the microwave because I cut the plug off it. And then the microwave exists for one purpose, so that the cat can jump on top of the waste bin, to jump on top of the microwave, then to jump on top of the boiler where she sleeps. And that's all it's there for.
And you can also use it if you really want your cell phone to be like contained. Yeah. Like you want to not have it spying on you, you can throw it in there.
Okay, they're going to struggle with my cell phone spying too much on me.
There you go.
Yeah, it doesn't do a good job. That's great for contact tracing, by the way. So, well, you need the contact tracing app. So you go, well, put it on that. I'll just go get a drink. And then they go, what do I do with this? And I said, well, you want to put it on. So fill your boots. I'll be back in a minute.
Fill your boots. Yeah. See if you can figure that one out, guys.
Yeah.
Don't. And you know what? Today I felt really a bit of heavy-heartedness for our elders because they're just being targeted so much through all of this. And this is our history. The elders hold our history. Yeah. And that
that's why they're doing it.
I know.
But don't forget as well, the elders, they chose the path they're on.
I know. And so it's mixed. It's all this mixed emotion, of course. And I still feel, greatly. And that, the targeting, but also that they're not technical. I mean, they didn't grow up understanding computers and so forth, right? And so now, even with basic things like shopping, getting food, picking up, like here in Canada, they've had us locked down for ages, and they're continuing to just do it. And they're expecting elders to shop online and purchase things online. And they've made it so complicated and convoluted.
I think they're just expecting the elders to die. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. Die, starve to death, whatever.
Well, right? I said at the beginning of this, and I said this is a death cult, and it's a cult. I thought it was a cult of the elderly. I think it's just a general cult. But let's not wander down that route.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the things that actually I did want to talk to you about was magnesium and its importance, because it's involved in so many things, and also DMSO. And if we get a chance to plant things, but we could probably end up talking all night, and we shouldn't.
I know. I did that yesterday. It was like 3.5 hours. I was like, wow. Yeah, it was a lot. I was feeling it today. Yeah. So that's very important. You're right. Let's focus now on things that can help people.
Well, I think the magnesium, certainly for me, it was the one thing that changed everything, because it's involved in so many things. And then the DMSO came behind that to refine.
Yes. And I think what's critical for people to understand about this macro mineral is the one of the main things it does, which is as a catalyst. And if you understand catalysm, basically you have enzymatic reactions. So you are, say, taking one substance and changing it into another form using an enzyme or an ASE, which is breaking it down a little bit. And that is a process. So it's a step-by-step thing that the body is doing. And that takes time. And so if you have a catalyst, the catalyst actually increases what's called the rate limiting step. So it accelerates or enhances the speed in which those processes take shape and take form. And if you have an issue in the body of, say, inflammation, for example, or you have been poisoned by something, whether it's a food, whether it's coming from the external, and the liver must process it. The liver is responsible for cleaning up the blood and making sure everything comes out of the body. It's you're going to have less of a reaction time because you're increasing the rate limiting step situation. So you're breaking down the waste faster.
That makes sense.
And then when I was looking at the detox of the liver, and I was just trying to understand all the complication of the basically just the chemistry of what's happening, the biochemistry, I realized that there's 7 primary elimination routes, and every single one of them, if they don't have enough magnesium, they will not work. And so that means it's essential to ensure that your liver does not become backed up or congested. And it's a master of your body. It's basically like your receptionist when you walk in is the liver, and it's responsible for organizing the entire body.
Mm-hmm.
It's also an endocrine organ. And if it's not functioning properly, you're not functioning properly. So
Mm-hmm.
when you can get enough magnesium in your system, you're going to upregulate your detox mechanism. You're going to ensure that the speed of the reactions is ample, and your bowels are going to be able to remove the waste appropriately, and you're less likely to get things like asthma attacks and rashes and
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of hair loss and etc. And psychological challenges and so forth, because you're not going to be in those deficiency states. And topical tends to be the best way to absorb it.
I have found that because if you take it orally, it is a laxative.
Yes, most of the types of magnesium will act as a laxative, and because you will only absorb a smaller amount of it, because
Yep.
the way that our guts absorb,
Yeah.
the rest will just be pushed through. So
Mm-hmm.
300 milligrams, a day is not enough.
No.
Not for where we're living and how we're living, the stressful times we're in.
No.
It's going to help with sleep as well. So a lot of people can use it right before bedtime to have a more restful sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Helps with pain because it decreases the inflammation
Yep.
in the area. And it's very versatile. Sometimes topically it's itchy for people, and that's because of the estrogen receptors on the skin, the way that
Mm-hmm.
it uptakes it and the transdermal nature of it.
I found that, and I wanted to itch because I when I find something that I think is going to be right, I do a small test and I think, right, I'll do everything. So I literally swamped my skin with it. It was a spray bottle, and I rubbed it all in and went for a walk, and I just wanted to scratch my entire skin off. And that lasted. I was walking along thinking, what have I done to myself? It was so uncomfortable, but that does pass. And
Yes, it
now
does.
I still use it largely every day. I just buy big bags of magnesium chloride, mix with distilled water spray bottle, and I just apply it.
Yeah.
And it actually works really well as a deodorant too.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And it's simple and it's affordable, and you can make it easily yourself.
Yes.
I make it as a product, but I also make it with DMSO
I heard that. I
as
hadn't
well.
thought about trying that. I watched a video of yours earlier on. I thought, I'm going to try that. That's interesting.
It is fascinating because DMSO applied topically is also transdermal. So
Yes.
you'll get that itch, and so you get both of them separate will give you the itch, but when you put them together, they're not irritating,
Yeah.
which
And that
is
itch does
fascinating.
pass over time. It stops itching in a while.
Yes, it's true, it does,
Yeah.
and it also depends on your uptake speed, and there's some
Yeah.
other factors involved, but
Yeah.
for the most part, yeah, at the beginning, it's terrible. Like, when I would spray it on my daughter, she'd complain for the first while, and then after a
Mhm.
while, she stopped complaining, it stopped bothering her.
I
So the
applied
body would
the
adapt.
DMSO, I poured it in my belly button, let it soak in. I found that's the best way to get it in real quick.
Very interesting. Yeah, use it as a reservoir, a little
Well,
lake.
it is, but also inside there, it's connected to all the blood supply that's there from when you had the umbilical cord
Umbilical.
there, and it will be in your system. I can taste it within 15, 20 seconds.
That's right, and that's
Yeah.
right. That's how you know you're absorbing it, because the
Yeah.
way that it affects the nervous system and
So for me,
tasting
that
it in
was the
your
very
mouth.
quickest way. And when I'm doing my breathing exercises after I've had a shower and stuff, lie down and just it soaks in, and then it's done, and it works a treat.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And,
Mm.
you do wanna take breaks if people are,
Yes.
have learned about DMSO and they are using it regularly.
Mhm.
I did write about it in my book, and I was just saying that the DMS, which is one of the breakdown products of DMSO, can linger a little bit longer.
Mhm.
And after about a month or so, just take a couple of days off just to allow the remaining DMS to finish off its metabolism and
Mhm.
be removed by the body, and then you can continue back on again. And
Yeah. What I found is taking the weekend off because it's kind of easy to remember. Then is I put it on during the week, and the weekend I just don't.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you, right?
That's right. Yeah, everyone finds the way with
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
if we step back a little bit just to magnesium for a second, in my experience, I was looking for things. I was having very bad heart palpitations. I was
Mhm.
having terrible migraine headaches that would go on for 4 and 5 days. They would clear for a day and come back again. I was having really bad hand tremors. I was having leg tremors where I thought my phone was buzzing in my pocket. And it was my legs vibrating. I had all sorts of other things going on, and it was actually my daughter because she was having terrible trouble with her heart palpitations. Her resting heart rate was like 96, and it would go up to over 200 when she's exercising, but she's very fit. I started applying it all over my skin. All of my situations settled down within a month. And
Mhm.
we checked her. She'd been in hospital twice, been carted off in an ambulance because of it. And then when we started doing that, now she's got really sensitive skin, so she has a foot soak with the magnesium in it.
Mhm.
And we checked her resting heart rate within 3 weeks, and it was down at 56 beats a minute.
Beautiful.
So
Yeah.
it's in my experience, and I mentioned this with Tom as well, and I know it's accurate, is that all disease, I don't care what label, what name, whatever they want to call it, all disease is based on either toxicity and or deficiency of something. And the
Yep.
first thing to hit in my world is always hit the magnesium, because nearly everyone I've met is deficient because of the way the food supply is right now.
Everyone.
Yeah.
You want a pandemic?
Yeah, it's
This
there.
is an epidemic of deficiency
Yeah.
in some key ones. Magnesium is one of them.
Yep.
Ironically, vitamin C has been
Oh yeah.
another
Huge.
deficiency,
Well, yeah, but
shockingly.
we're also told that we need, what is it, 90 milligrams a day, and I normally take between 5 and 6,000. And if I
Yeah,
get when I had that tooth pulled the other week, I was taking
you
like
need more.
18,000 milligrams a day before, during, and after.
And your
And
body will tell you, your body
yeah,
has an elegant system that
yeah.
if that's too much, it will have a loose bowel.
Well, it
So it'll
pulls a
tell you
chain,
you're
yeah.
saturated. Yeah,
So, yeah, you've got plenty now. Just back up. Okay, got it.
that's right. Exactly. Yeah, that and iodine, I notice also.
Yes.
Iodine's been a deficiency. We know about vitamin D, that's very common.
Yeah.
But vitamin K2 tends to be quite
Yeah.
deficient as well, which was a
Is that
shocker.
in sauerkraut?
You can get which the K2?
Yeah.
So that's K1, I believe
K1,
in
right? Yeah, and it was one of the
um
Ks.
yeah, K2 is more from like organ meats and animal products and butters and eggs and that sort of thing tends to be.
Yeah.
Or you can get it from natto, which is soy, fermented soy. So you can get it through fermentation of certain
Yeah.
vegetables. So there might be K2 in that. I haven't really, I
I don't
always
know.
recommend sauerkraut anyway,
Oh
but
God,
because
yeah,
of
it's
the
amazing.
probiotics. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And
and
that's one of the things. Probiotics are vital for people, because you
vital.
are a you are a bacterial system. You
That's
have
what's
more
so
back.
ironic, about all this stuff,
No.
the killing of everything and germaphobes being
Yep.
created left, right, and center is that
Yep.
we are germs. It's
Yeah.
all through us. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And you have to eat germs. And even with B12, I mean, you get B12 from bacteria. I mean,
Yeah.
it not only does that form in your body that way, but in the
Yeah.
soil microbes. So I don't even clean my carrots like 100%
No.
because when I garden, so I won't clean my carrots like, all the way. I'll take the grit off, but
Yeah.
I want the microorganisms in
Of course you do.
there,
Yeah. And that's when you realize it's like, I used to wash my hands a lot. Now I have a shower, and then they don't get washed again till the next day.
Yeah. Unless I have like actually
Yeah.
something I've
Yeah.
gotten on my hands that's
Yeah.
sticky or irritating.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I'm
Yeah.
not excessively.
Yeah.
And I make soap and I see all these people who make products and they're using this as an opportunity to like sell more of their cleaning products and stuff. And I don't do that. I will never
Sad.
upsell based on an
No.
opportunity, some false opportunities. So
Yeah.
that's upsets me when people
Yeah.
do that to others. So but yeah, the deficiencies are very rampant.
Yeah.
And then you have people who are taking all these medications that cause extra deficiencies as well.
Yeah. Well,
And then
they're called medications, but in reality, 99% of them must be another additional form of toxicity in order to create
yeah,
more symptoms, so they can sell you more products. And it's this corporate machine that just wants to slowly poison you to keep you close to death for as long as it can, consuming their products.
yes, and not get to the elder status.
Yeah,
And
right. Yeah,
so as soon
because
as the pension age comes.
there's two things with that. I think number one is the pension age, when you are no longer useful as a contributor back into the system. You are now taking out of the system. You can't have that. And the
Mhm.
second thing is that you actually start to get a little bit of wisdom, even if you don't look around for it, as you get older. And then you start to see the flaws in the system. So if you keep someone sick and weak, they can't concentrate to learn what's going on. And then you kill them off young before they can get smart and go, that's a crock of shit. I'm not buying into that.
That's why you often see uh, individuals go from like a more leftist ideology, and as they mature, they go towards the other way,
Mhm.
because it's you're entrained into it, and then you realize, wait, this is a cult. This is not
Yeah.
what's happening. And I always wondered why like adults tended to vote more conservative, and the youth tend to go more,
Do you know
liberal. And
I've never voted ever, and I've never been on the electoral roll, because
that's amazing.
the whole thing. I think actually I may have been on it to start with, but I've not been on it for such a long time, because I looked at it and I went, I don't want any part of this. It
Yeah.
feels so, and then I was chewed up and spat out by the system. And I won't talk about it publicly, but privately I would. And it taught me something about how fucking dangerous it was and what it was
Yes.
capable of doing. And at that point, I backed right up and I kept
Mhm.
backing up. And someone said to me, "Well, you have a problem with authority?" And I said, "No, I don't. I just don't recognize it at all. There is no external authority anywhere that has any validity. We are the
No.
authority. We are the author of our own life."
Exactly. Yeah, it's all false. They're all false authorities, and
Right.
they impose upon you, and you have to agree to it in order for them to even do the imposition. Otherwise, they're just bullies. And
Yeah.
then we treat bullies, with the full, with law, or with the, again, you don't focus on them because they're really just afraid. Because
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
bully just has really fear behind them.
Yeah.
And once you call them out on it, they run. They're actually cowards. That's why
Yeah.
they're bullies,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you know that any institution that does that, they're liars and they're cowards and
Yeah.
they're not worth their salt. So
Yeah.
you just stand up to them and show that your true authorship, and
Yeah. Of
they they must back off
course.
basically at that point. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, all of these deficiencies, and then
Mm.
what's fascinating is then the medical cartel gives more deficiencies, of course, by design,
Well,
but even
magnesium is one of the ones that gets stripped out with everything because it's trying to handle
yeah.
it, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it has to be used for all the detox, of course, and then you're
Yep.
constantly poisoning them, so they're constantly using it up, and
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
we have this rampant deficiency situation.
Yeah.
And so I promote it like, crazy. And Carolyn Dean, I remember when first met Carolyn Dean at an orthomolecular conference out in Ottawa, because I
Mhm.
took myself to this is when I thought government actually would listen to.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. I was like, what's going on here? I got to go voice my concerns. You can't just
Yeah.
keep taking away our natural health products and things that we make. Like, it's ridiculous, right? And I got to meet all these wonderful people who were also at this meeting. And I elected myself to be the voice of the naturopaths because the naturopaths wouldn't go.
Mhm.
So I just said, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to speak on behalf of the naturopaths because no one wants to talk.
Mhm.
And I'll say my piece. And so when I met Carolyn Dean, she was just such an inspiration, and then I started following her work, and
Yeah.
that's where, was learning more about magnesium. She's the queen of magnesium. If you don't know her, you can check out all her
Yeah.
work, and she does amazing work, and health freedom advocate, and like things where this is our natural birthright
Yeah.
to be free. And so we're
Mhm.
claiming that, in this changeover that's happening. I mean, there's
Mhm.
a lot of decentralization going on.
Mhm.
There's like alternate internet being produced right now. I know people who are working on that.
Mhm.
We have my friend Dean Clifford, and all kinds of incredible Curtis Stone people here in Canada who are we're making strides to our own communities that are
Yep.
outside of the purview of this government, which is actually violent. They are
Mhm.
inherently violent, and the logic really falls completely apart. Actually, it's funny because I have a little bit of precog, so I had this precog moment before we came on. Let's see if I can find it. It was somebody that posted in my Telegram group.
Mhm.
Here it is. It was by Lysander Spooner. And it said, if any man's money can be taken by a so called government without his own personal consent, all his other rights are taken with it. For with his money, the government can and will hire soldiers to stand over him, compel him to submit to its arbitrary will, and kill him if he resists. It
Mhm.
is self evident that no number of men, by conspiring and calling themselves a government, can acquire any rights whatever over other men or other men's property, which they had not before as individuals.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's like a theme moment there where it's saying
Mhm.
that, you basically don't hand over the keys to your house to somebody randomly and say, well, here, you can just come in here and do whatever you want. I mean,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous, right?
Mhm.
And I really subscribe to like the voluntarism kind of idea where you're it's not, nobody rules over you. You volunteer. If you want to get involved in something, you're a volunteer, right? And you participate, you're part of it. You want to be a community gardener, then you join a community garden. That's you volunteer into that energy.
Yep.
It's your free will into it, right?
Yep.
But you don't get usurped by a birth certificate and told that you have to have a license to drive a car and all of these things,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous, right? Because
Yep.
but people just accept it
Yeah.
without question.
Well,
Yeah.
it's how the whole thing's been built. It's built, designed, and then the school is there to indoctrinate you into it, right down to the roll call every day when they're persuading you that you're your surname. No, you're not. But that's how the whole thing's been put together.
That's right. And
Mm.
we're learning now, and
Yep.
there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of activity happening.
Yeah.
And we have those people I know reach out to me and like, okay, I'm in this situation. They're trying to pull me into law or they're bullying me. I just trying to feed my family. I mean, think about it. They are opening their stores because they're starving to death. And police are coming in and telling them that they are serving them documents and telling them they can't do that.
Mhm.
That is it's their time to stand up and say, you can't do that to us. We
Well,
have every right to be able to feed ourselves.
they can if they're operating in the public, but if they operate in the
Mhm,
private, it's a different thing. So
mhm.
there's no point in pushing against the system. Work out where the holes in the system are, step through them, and get back onto the side of the game that works, and refuse them entry.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the way to do it, because you can't go up against something that's so extraordinary. Well, you can, but you'll just waste your energy. It's designed for
Mhm,
that. Something that's so violent, that's so aggressive, that has the ability to print all the money it wants, to hire all the
mhm,
terrorists and thugs it wants to do the job.
mhm.
You, being elegant, being smart, being resourceful, simply outmaneuver it. Just just
Yeah,
just become like the wind, or but like the water, and when it pushes against you, envelop it, drown it, and keep
yeah.
moving.
Yes, and doing listening to commercial law or contract law is very, I think, more effective. Common law, I don't find to
100%.
be, very effective.
I
Mhm.
think there's a common law is great, but there's a problem. We live in a world that's run by contract and equity. So you need to
That's
find a
right.
way to combine it. And when you combine it, then you can have some killer strokes, I think, because
Exactly.
that's the way to go. And all this business of quoting Magna Carta, I get that 100%. I just don't think it's got the kind of teeth that you think it has. You need something that has teeth, and you need to work
And
within their system.
And exactly. So when you can present an affidavit to a bank where you're asking them to prove whether they have any value added to the so-called fractional reserve banking
Yeah.
debt notes that they offered you,
Yeah.
and to prove that the involuntary bankruptcy of the Corporation of Canada has been insolvent, and
Yeah.
1933 Bankruptcy Act and da, 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 right? They're like, whoa,
Can I
yep.
have the original
Anyway,
document, please?
exactly, and that
You
is
know, the one that you
duly
sold.
signed. That one, can I see it?
Yeah.
Can I see the real deed to my
Yeah.
house? I'd like
Yep.
to see that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and they can't produce. So,
No.
but it does take bravery,
Yeah.
and that's where you gotta feel the fear and do it anyway. You have
Of
to
course you have. Yeah.
do it from a loving place because then you're not vulnerable. If you come at it from an ego in a negative way or in an
Yeah.
attacking format,
Yeah.
then that's where you're vulnerable and that's where you get into trouble. So, but yeah, health wise, it's become simpler and simpler and easier, and you don't just don't you don't need them anymore.
No.
I haven't been. Do you think I go to any of these people? No. Do you think my daughter has ever been to one of them?
No.
No, never and never will. If even if she does something where she hurts herself, we know how to take care of most of that at home.
Yeah.
If it's something that's obviously life threatening, then I'll use services for that means only. But at this day and age, we have to come up even with our own emergency services, I think,
Yeah.
because the emergency services have been co-opted into all this
Yeah.
nonsense.
Well,
So
I'll
we
give you an example. I got, it wasn't a particularly life-threatening injury. I was at the garden, and I don't wear shoes. I wear bare feet when I'm up there, unless it's the middle of winter like now, where it's very cold. So I'm up there in bare feet walking around, and I'm on my own up there. And I walked across a stake of wood, which I hadn't seen, that was probably about the size and length of my thumb. And it went about that far into my foot. And I thought, well, that's going to hurt coming out, which it did. So I looked at that and I thought, well, I've got stuff to finish here. So here's what we're going to do. So the first thing I did was I peed on it to clean it.
perfect.
And then I went and got some comfrey leaves and chewed them all up to get them all nice and moist and soft. And I pushed them into the hole. And then I tied another comfrey leaf around the outside of it, like a Fred Flintstone shoe. And I carried on about my business. And I took some more comfrey home. And then within 2 or 3 days, it had pretty much healed completely up. No stitches, no nothing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. My daughter had fallen and her full weight had landed on her elbow, and it
Mm,
went white and it looked not great.
yeah.
And I grabbed plantain leaves and I did a spit poultice on
Hmm.
that, and then wrapped it up with more leaves and then put just some gauze so it would stay on.
Yeah.
And then it was in the evening. Her pain went away almost right away. I did give her homeopathic arnica
Yeah.
anyway, just to stop any internal bleeding.
Mm,
And then she went to bed. When she woke up in the morning, we took it off the poultice and it was all crumbly, it just crumbled away.
mm.
And nothing. It was as if nothing had happened to her arm. No redness, no scratching. Not, it was just not
And
there.
that's how potent the plant remedies are. And I think for those of you listening, nearly all of the original pharmacological medicines, if you will, came from plants. It's only more recently that they became bastardized into chemical concoctions. And if you take the time to look at certain plants, you don't need to know those and just learn a new one every once in a while. Like the comfrey one was a new one to me. Absolutely amazing for healing. There's all sorts of different things. Just take the time to educate yourself. I bought a book. Just let me see if I can find it. Put it. It is somewhere, but it's not where I thought it was. I wanted a book on the old plant remedies.
Like a Culpeper kind of thing?
That kind of thing, yeah. And I finally found one, which was absolutely amazing. And it's got the different pictures of plants at different times of the year and what they're all involved in doing.
Awesome.
Finding that kind of material is just amazing, absolutely amazing,
Yes.
because you can solve any problem pretty much with a plant because it'll address the deficiency.
That's right. It's elegant in lots of ways because it'll address the mineral or vitamin deficiencies, or also the constituents will have specific action on the body too.
Yeah.
And when you match that properly, then if you understand what that particular thing would be good for, then you generally know how to apply it when you have some of the things.
And
Actually,
it's got the local information about the local area and the toxicity and everything that you require as well.
Yes, because there are nuances.
Yeah.
I bought my daughter one year. It's actually a board game you can buy online called Wildcrafted, and it just walks you through a path, and all these things happen. You pick cards, and then so say a bee, gets stung by a bee, and then it'll come up with all the herbs that you could use to actually treat the bee sting, and then you go and
Urine
sort of
would be good for that.
Always urine. Anything allergic, potentially allergic is urine.
Yeah.
Anything where you have a topical pain is urine. Actually, I will be doing a video soon on urine therapy because
I'll talk to you about that because I came across that reasonably recently and it's just amazing.
It's amazing. It really is. I'm growing back. I used to henna my hair because I started getting gray hair a little bit in stress of university. That's when it started. And I've been taking B vitamins because B vitamins do help to bring back the tint. But I've been doing henna for years and years, and I always never liked the color of my hair anyway. I always like to play around with it and being more artistic. And then I said, no, you know what? I want to see what it looks like. I want to see the gray come in. I want to understand what's happened. So I've watched that for a little while. And now I'm like, okay, now I've been doing urine therapy for quite many years now, but off and on, but now consistently. And so now I'm starting to see where the normal hair is creeping in. Like I've already had a few where I normally would get like, along the sides here, I would get a little bit and they're gone now already. And that's just like a few weeks of urine therapy. And I'm not even applying it topically at this point. It's just internal. So
well, I've had the same. I was gray all the way down my chest to my groin. And now there's a small V of gray and the rest is black.
Yeah.
It's hysterical. And my hair's graying, all the colors coming back on my head. And I'm like, this is really interesting. Really interesting.
Do that in DMSO as well. I mean, DMSO will upregulate your circulation.
Yeah.
And that will assist.
We should talk about DMSO actually, because that was where we started about an hour and a half back.
Well, you were talking about, how medicines come from plants, all the original medicines. So this is no different. This is from tree. This is tree medicine. There's a lot of beautiful tree medicines, and this is one of them. And it's ultimately what would make a tree stand strong and upright. And when they want to take the tree and make it into pulp to make paper and other things, then
I used to be in the pulp industry, funnily enough.
Really? Yeah. So you knew about the white liquor and the washing of it.
It's from the sulfate pulping process, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's like basically a waste product of that industry. And so it's cheap enough to sell off.
Yeah.
And then it has to be refined further to make sure that the elements of the white liquor are not present because that's not, so it's the way it's extracted. And yeah, it's transdermal, it's in a liquid format, it has very special characteristics. And the medical industry was interested in it because it was cryopreserving. So it would actually preserve tissue for organ transplants. And so Stanley Jacob was studying it based on that because that's what he was doing research on. Of course, you get the same saga story for anything that has wonderful healing properties. You get the FDA coming in and shutting it down and making it illegal and threatening your life and taking away your research and all these sorts of things because they really care about your health. So they had to stop research for a little while, and then they got back on with it, and it it's really actually quite well studied. When I so this is why I was so shocked when,
Yeah.
me going through
Well,
naturopathic college,
there's thousands and thousands of studies on it.
thousands.
Yeah.
I was amazed. I couldn't
Yeah.
even read them all. There'd be
No.
no way to read them all. I had to skim some. I was just, but I read all the original studies, and they had a conference. So
Hmm.
all the researchers who had been researching DMSO and doing studies got together in New York and
Hmm.
had shared all their research, and that got compiled into a book. And I bought that book, but you can also get a free PDF. You can find it online as well. And it has all the original. So I read that and I was just mind blown. And that's when I came on and did a video and talked about it. And I was so excited because I had started to use it and I was getting really fascinating results. And
Hmm.
I love things like that are so simple and elegant and yet effective in so many different realms of the body and so
That
many
is
different
still my best
applications.
performing video that isn't to do with political stuff or anything. The DMSO one is always the one that gets the most views.
Yes. And I think because intuitively people know that this
Yeah.
is something that they can afford,
Yeah.
and also that they can use for so many different things in their lives.
Yeah.
And so once we present it, and that was the same with me, it was a top performing video. And that's what got me the Ulysses Press interested in me
Okay.
writing a book about it, was from all of that information. And so yeah, and now I started blending it and making combination remedies with it
That's a
as well
really
because
interesting
it's
thing to
very,
do,
yeah.
but it makes
Well,
sense.
being chemically minded, meaning like I was always very alchemist in my nature. I always was
Hmm.
understanding how things worked well together and the synergy of them. And, even with cooking and things, right? That's alchemist.
Hmm.
You can think of it like that. And what goes together and what belongs together. And so I started to use it in skincare, and it it enhances what you put it with, right?
Yeah.
So I'm getting all these results from my facelift in a jar, people's like aging, reversing their aging of 10 years, right?
Hmm.
So it's and then I started doing it eye drops, and people are like reversing their cataracts and they don't need the surgery
Yeah.
anymore. And these sorts of things. I mean, it's stopping heart attacks and strokes was where I first started. I was like, how wait a second.
The
I mean,
strokes thing is what struck me. I couldn't believe that that would be ignored.
exactly, exactly. That's where you get a red flag and you're like, okay, but if it could stop an ischemic stroke, that should be common knowledge in hospitals. The doctors should know. They should be telling their patients that. So you obviously know there's an agenda to keep
Yeah.
that away. And that's what made me go deeper into it. So anything where I know it's being hidden, I'm like, I'm going to go right in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if it's taboo, like urine therapy, it's taboo.
Yeah.
I'm going
Really?
in. Yeah.
Let me in.
The coffee enemas, I got to do that. I got to know
Yeah.
about that. Right. Because whatever seems like bizarre
Well,
to
that's
other
the only
people,
decent thing to do with coffee.
it's only place for it really,
Yeah.
unless you want to do like a coffee scrub on your body with the
Mm.
grinds, and that
Or
can
your
work a
garden.
little. They go in the garden, they go in the compost,
Yeah. But it shouldn't
wherever,
go in your
but
mouth.
it shouldn't go in your mouth. It's
Yeah.
what it's like drinking a cup of stress. Good morning. Here's your morning stress. Good
I,
day.
I had when I was looking at the magnesium thing and I was having these heart palpitations where my heart would kind of go bang, 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 and it was kept happening. I kept thinking, this is weird. I don't know what's going on. I used to drink really, really strong coffee. And I had a strong
Um,
coffee and I was driving to the pub with my girlfriend, and all of a sudden my heart was pounding like mad, but I was starting to black out. And
mm.
I checked my pulse and there was no pulse. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So I'm punching myself in the chest as hard as I could to get myself so I could stop the car, to then drink gallons of water. And I started to feel sort of better when I went to bed. Got up in the morning, had a cup of coffee, and then I'm on the kitchen floor doing the same thing, going bang, bang. Never touched coffee since then.
Yeah.
And lots of
The
magnesium since then as well.
At least you had the correlation moment where you figured it out. I
It
mean,
happened
there's
pretty quick.
people who can't seem to figure out correlation when
Yeah.
it's like direct like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the
Yeah.
medical industry, they have a problem with that too.
Yeah.
But it hits adrenaline and
Yeah.
cortisol levels go up. I mean,
Yeah.
I said you could also get the same effect if you walk outside in the morning and almost get hit by a bus. You
Yeah.
have
Okay.
the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
physical. So
Yeah.
you could do that or buy the coffee, whatever you want. Uh, right. But I understand there's arguments, and this is what I'm saying. When you get locked into that world, that
Yeah.
debate world, right?
Yeah.
And you get all kinds of studies saying it's good, it's bad, it's good, it's
Yeah.
bad, but this looks good, but they're divorcing out all these things, and they're never looking at individuals. They're
Yeah.
never addressing your metabolism and your
Yeah.
mental state and any. So that's it's gone. It's not even a value at that point. So magnesium is pretty much everyone that's going to talk to me is going to be leaving with magnesium or be told to either do Epsom salt soaks or magnesium flake soaks in the bath, or get the topical on there, or something, or even I'll even get it orally. I'll even say, fine, then at least take something orally if they won't. Somewhere it's got to come in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's essential for obviously preventing heart attacks and stuff. But the DMSO now, I mean, I can't tell you that the stories and the results I've had from people who were just dying, really. I mean, there's even a cancer therapy that where you use DMSO with MSM, its derivative, together in quite decent doses. And really it just upregulates all your glutathione processes and your detox of the blood, and will assist the body to self-regulate, because you don't need to go and mess around again with like the little end finery. All you need to do is clean it up, and the body will just heal
It
the
knows
rest
what to
anyway.
do. All you've got to
It
do is
knows what to
help it.
do.
You know, when
That's
I
what I'm
wrote
saying.
when I wrote my book about health, which is an ongoing work as I keep learning more, so people get updated by it or from it. I send out an update and say, right, I've changed this now. Here's the change log and all the rest of it. When I was doing all the work in that, I'm going to lose my train of thought. Damn. No, you carry on. It's gone. It'll come back at some point.
Well, just, with the DMSO and all of these different nuances and how we're using and what it can heal, and the results, I was saying, like, I was just getting fantastic feedback from people, and yet something so simple and something so elegant. And that if they could, like, I actually slammed my finger in the door last year, and I ripped it out of the door because it was a reaction. I just pulled it. I shouldn't have, because it went all the way. I actually don't even know which hand I don't even know what hand I did it in. That's how healed it is. I think maybe whatever. But anyway, I slammed it. And so I immediately ran in and I had a paper towel and I soaked it in 99.995% DMSO, and I wrapped it around, and I was in so much pain. And I just actually came here in my chair and I just held it and with it on there, and I sat there and I just did like some energy work on it. And I took as well homeopathic aconitum, which is for shock. So because I felt like I was in a shock state. And I actually, after about a certain amount of time, not long, maybe 10 minutes, I could feel the pain just lift, kind of like a cloud, and then it was gone. And it was pain-free, and I just went about my day and did what I was doing. And it was broken. It was broken and ripped, and it healed within a week completely, with no scar, I had a little bump, but I had a little bump, but that's gone too now from it. That was it. So the fact that you can have something and apply it, like I couldn't have plants at that point. It wasn't plants available. I would have done, plantain or comfrey or something on there just to pull out the excess heat, but I didn't need to with the DMSO. It was just that easy.
Well,
so.
it's one of the things I carry. I worked out and said, right, what are the things I could carry with me when I travel or when I go places that I should always have nearby? One is DMSO in a small bottle. I have it in a sock so it's not exposed to the light. It's in a glass bottle. 2 is I have a little spray bottle with some magnesium oil in it. And 3 is I have some colloidal silver. And with those things, I can handle most of the emergencies when I'm out and about. You don't need much else.
No, you really don't. You have your urine if you need it for other things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I make colloidal silver. I've been making colloidal silver for many, many years. Actually, my good friend who's passed away now, but Bruce McBurney, he was the one who introduced me to colloidal silver back in, I think, right before naturopathic college. And he would just hand out bottles. He would just make it and hand out bottles to people and say, if, you won't be disappointed, and here, here's what you use it for and stuff. And he taught me about colloidal gold and copper and all these other things as well.
Yeah, ladies, if you want to see some interesting things with your skin, colloidal copper spray will do that.
Yes, it's fantastic. You have to, I love copper, actually. I actually have copper bracelets. I encourage, at least you're getting some sort of topical copper. It's another one of those minerals that is deficient in a lot of people.
Yeah.
So if we just fix the food and fix these little things, then you'll be able to get your health back.
Yeah, fix the toxic issue. and make sure you can eliminate toxins. And we'll maybe step into that next.
Mhm.
And then fix the deficiencies and have things like DMSO. Every house should have DMSO in it for
Yeah.
emergencies. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. I was working on an engine, and I think I'm like you. I can't remember which finger it was. I think it may have been this one. And it was on the top of the turbocharger wastegate, but it was face down. So there's a thin metal bar, and I had a big breaker bar, and I dropped it, and it hit my finger, and the metal bar went straight through my nail and hit the bone.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, that's covered in engine oil and all sorts of crap. So I put peroxide on it, which put me through the roof. And I looked at it and I thought, I don't want to lose the nail, and I've got stuff to do. So when I cleaned it up again with some urine, I then put some tissue paper and super glue to create some structure to hold it. And then I
Mhm.
got a small glass bowl with DMSO in it, and I let my finger in there for about 4 hours I just had it on my desk while I was working the stuff. And it stopped throbbing within about half an hour. Like you said, the pain just suddenly goes, and it was
Yeah.
completely healed. I didn't lose the nail, no other damage, nothing. Within a week, I didn't even know it was there.
Yeah. And you can also do hydrotherapy is another free one that people don't realize. You can using alternating hot and cold
Mm,
has a lot of effect on the body.
mm,
And as naturopaths, we're trained in hydrotherapy techniques, and it's one of those old, lost remedies that we have that's pretty easy to use. And actually, Barbara O'Neill talks about using hot and cold alternating for pain. So if you
mhm,
suddenly hit your finger or something, you actually put it in as hot as water as you can handle.
mhm.
For you do like a rotation of 3 minutes to 30 seconds. So 3 minutes hot, 30 seconds as
Mhm,
cold as you can handle. And
mhm.
by the time you're on the second round in the heat, you're already going to decrease the pain.
Yeah.
And then you just do that up to 5 times.
Wow.
And what it does is it starts to harmonize and pump the blood with the lymph so that
Mhm.
you just get rapid attention of the body and clearing out of the waste
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah.
So you don't get the complications, you speed the healing response.
Wow.
So yeah, there's lots and lots of this is what is so incredible is look at the knowledge, look at how
Yes.
much we have available. I
Mhm.
mean, there would be like 10 to 20 different ways to approach one tiny little
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
You could go in all different realms to how you would actually support that and help it heal.
Yeah.
And yet it's lost to the majority of people. They
Well,
they
and that
just suppress.
yeah, that's why I think that as much as it's unpleasant with what we're going through right now, I think in many ways it's exciting because you can go back to the old ways, you can seek out the old knowledge, and then you'll start to get a deep-seated understanding that everything is here to support you, and there is no particularly one right way. There's a multitude rather of different ways of doing it, and there's always stuff around that you can find that will support you to help you heal. You don't need to go. I mean, this is what I think is primarily wrong, is that we've been so conditioned to look outside ourselves for the cure. They're going to save us. This is going to save us. The doctor's going to help me. This, that, and the other. All the answers you need are inside you and immediately in your vicinity. And you just have to learn to slow down, get the knowledge, figure it out, find the people who have the knowledge and the wisdom, and get to it. And you're fine.
And it's a process to get there
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
all of the whatever trauma you've had growing up or whatever belief systems that have been
Mhm.
embedded or all kinds of lack of confidence, like I was saying earlier, right? So all of that
Yeah.
has to be dealt with and the
Yeah.
ego has to be wrangled and chiseled and etched and
Yeah.
corralled and put in the morgue or whatever and then
Well,
and then you
it's like when they're great artists, when they start with a block of marble and they're making a beautiful sculpture out of it. All they do is they take away the marble that shouldn't be there. And that's, I
it's
think,
already
well,
within.
yeah, that's what we do with our ego, with our
Exactly.
lives. It's about chiseling away the bits that shouldn't be there to expose the real beauty of who you are and who you're supposed to be.
It's interesting because I started off in what I was going to do was be a painter. I wanted to be an artist, right? And so when I would start my art, that's actually how I would see it, like a
Mm,
sculptor. So I would look at my canvas and I would try to figure out what was already there
yeah.
and just paint it out.
Yes.
So I got some really interesting artwork from that
I bet.
approach rather,
Yeah.
the whole coming approach. It's already there. It's already been made. And I'm just listening to what it is so that I
Yeah.
can identify it. That's
Well,
it.
well, that's very much become my approach of late. When I worked out that we're living in an inverted reality where everything is back to front, inside out, and I say that on my website, for the love of truth.co.uk, it's on the front page. what I do now, my approach is what is the polar opposite of what I think I'm being told? And I go look there, and that's nearly always where the answer can be found, but it's reversed. It's like a mirror.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's brilliant because then when you know that it's inverted, then you
Yeah.
have it's a very clear key.
Yes.
And then you can make that correction, and then you're going to find the
Yeah.
answer that
And
way.
it's like what you've been talking about, and graciously sharing with all your knowledge on the plants and the magnesium and the DMSO and everything. It's not complex. The system tries to make you think it's unbelievably complex and you can't get it, but it's not. Your health is so simple once you start to work with natural law and understand some basic principles. It's
Mhm.
very easy to maintain and recover your health. And then, I haven't seen a doctor in 30 years, ever since I was last sick, funnily enough. I've not been sick. Well, no, I'm afraid when I say get sick, a detoxification event is not sickness. It's your body
Yeah.
doing what it's supposed to do. And yet people seem to think, oh, you've got sick. No, I haven't. I'm simply getting rid of some junk that inadvertently has got into my system because we're so exposed to toxins all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's normal when you've burned the candle at both ends. I mean, you have to know when you've done that to yourself. And I know
Yeah.
when I make mistakes in my own health, and then I realize, okay, you skipped your coffee enema last week, and you didn't drink that much water today. That's
Yeah.
your fault. And you didn't eat, or you were fasting, or maybe you just ate the wrong thing, or whatever it was. But
Yeah.
still, it's about, okay, now I'm going to make the correction. The
Yeah.
correction is always
Yeah.
supporting the liver and the blood, and the removal of toxins,
Yeah.
and the increase in nutrition. So when was the last time you ate a fresh salad? I mean, how many of my clients, they'll say, like, I look at their diets, I'm like, no.
4 hours ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, there you go. Good. But like, they're not, they always say they think they eat well. That's what's
Yeah.
interesting. Everyone thinks they're actually eating well. And so once you break that down, well, you're eating, fermented cow milk, or non-fermented cow milk, even if it's fermented, it's pasteurized. So it's a
We're so lucky,
pro-inflammatory.
by the way. We have a raw dairy about 4 miles
Oh,
from here.
perfect.
And he's
I mean,
had
if you're
1960 started producing the milk around then. They've never been inoculated. Any of his herd never get inoculated.
oh,
And they're on grass, which has only had the cow's manure on it, no chemicals.
wow,
It's amazing.
it's just I'm just happy to hear that exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that is not here. That is
Yeah.
not here at all.
Yeah.
But we'll get there, because that's what we're working forward into that now.
Real
I feel
quickly,
that
while
way.
we're on the subject of elimination, I mentioned this in Tom's the other day as well, and it was quite funny because he said, "Yeah, we should talk more about that." We're not designed to sit on a toilet. We're designed
No,
to squat because when you sit, the puborectalis muscle, isn't it? It basically kinks the waste pipe, if you will, like kinking a hose pipe, so that
that's
you
right.
don't have
Like
an
this.
accident. Yeah, that's right. So you don't have an accident.
Mhm,
And you don't soil yourself, which wasn't actually what
mhm,
I was going to say, but I probably should.
mhm.
Um, so when you try and sit, you're forcing through a kink, and it's no wonder you have no end of problems because you're not eliminating. If you can squat, now squatting on a toilet for some people is going to be a dangerous event. You can buy squatting toilets, but the best thing I found was to get something like a squatty potty, which is just
Yeah,
a
that's what I
plastic
use.
stool. Yeah, that you lift your legs up. And it doesn't have to be a lot. I actually used the bucket of magnesium chloride I had by the bath till I got the stool. And it is the very finest thing you can do to help your body eliminate toxicity. It's amazing. And I would suggest everyone gets that because that is one of the critical things for all of these things. If you're not taking the waste out of your system quickly and efficiently, you've got a real problem.
Well, what happens is the portal vein, it starts to have the blood engorged with the toxins, and the body has to then bring that into the liver, and the liver has to keep trying to keep the blood clean
Yeah.
from the waste getting reabsorbed back in.
Yeah.
And that means that now your liver is going to be working on
Yeah.
just the poop chute rather than all the other things it has to do.
Right.
So
Yeah.
how are you supposed to get your life force up to actually heal something that's been
Yeah.
chronic in your life,
Yeah.
when your body's just like, well, sorry, we have this waste dump here that
Yeah.
we have to keep on top of right now. So
I
if you
wonder
clean that
I
up,
wonder who designed the toilet to be the way it was and why they designed it that way in the first place.
yeah, I'm sure that's a fascinating story. I
Yeah.
mean, in India, I didn't ever sit on a toilet when I
No.
traveled to India. It was everything's a squat on the floor.
Yeah.
You got to get good with your squatting muscles, because you don't want to fall in that thing either.
No,
So
you
you got
don't. No,
to
you don't.
you got to learn some new tricks, but they don't even use toilet paper. You just wash your hand. You just wipe with your hand. You literally wipe with your hand or rinse with water, and you just go wash your hands after. That's what they do.
Absolutely. And I think what again, this is a bit of an odd discussion for some people. What you will find when you're using the correct toilet technique, if you will, with that
you don't have to wipe. I know.
You need next to no wipes because everything works as it should. You don't see cats and dogs going around with a roll of toilet roll, do you?
Very, very good points. Very good point.
They go right over and they squat, so everything's in a line. Anyway, that was the one point I wanted to make about elimination, because it's one point that so many people miss.
When you get a no wiper, it's nothing better.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a ghosty. You're like, oh, that's the best thing ever right there. I just made my day. I can just sit back and just smile. It's the simple things in life, really, you know?
Yeah. Oh, too right. Yeah.
But there's right technique. There's right action, right technique, right?
Yeah.
There's those things.
Yeah.
And then if you don't, that's fine too, but then you're just going to have to deal. And so it's up to you. Do you want the suffering part, or would you like the correct technique and make that a non-issue in your life? And personally, I like the squatty potty situation. So I have a bamboo one instead of the plastic when they make them in bamboo.
My daughter has a bamboo one. Yeah. I think that Tom made a very good point. He said that nature really doesn't care what you think. You either follow nature's laws or you pay the price for not following them.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, it's why you get rewards when you do.
Oh, they're off the chart,
it gets easier. You are able to enjoy your life more. And then sometimes I forget. And then, like, if I weren't in the field, I'd probably forget that people are even going through all of these weird sufferings and things, right? I mean, I hear these stories all the time, every day about, I'm like, whoa, why are you doing that to yourself? You know? Yeah. It's like my dad would say, why stop doing that to yourself? Just stop and it'll go away, you know?
100%, yeah. But we could talk a lot about that, but people can't seem to be able to make that correlation in their mind that everything, and I talked about this with Tom, everything is cause and effect, and all of the symptoms are simply effects of a cause. Your job is to identify what the cause is in terms of toxicity, in terms of deficiency. And it could be toxins you can't see, like electromagnetic stress and radiation. It could be toxic thinking. It could be stuff in your soul. It could be a whole raft of things. As you identify that, when you deal with the cause, then the symptom will go away. But do not mask the symptom, because it's the messenger. Pay attention to the messenger. Deal with the message. And then when you deal with the message, it goes away. It doesn't have to stay anymore.
And and that's a case in point. I just went through this physically myself. So I started to develop pain and inflammation in the left breast and under the armpit and down the arm, and frozen shoulder type of experience, and all kinds of pain. It was very distressing and strange, because I'm eating well and I'm, things are correct in my life. Yes, stress and whatever, and all of those little things. So I was like, okay, it must be stress. I'm going to have to reconfigure what I'm doing. And so I have like the wounded healer path. So I tend to get things because they're lessons, and I have to learn what they are and understand them completely until they go away. So I'm like, what is this? Why do I have to why is this going on? Yeah. And then it finally all clicked, where I had 2 back-to-back cases of women that were having the exact same symptoms as me. And I was simply explaining to them, well, there's nothing wrong with you. This is just menopause. I mean, it's just perimenopause. This is just exactly, you get frozen shoulder, you get breast pain, you get mood changes, you get inflammation in the lymphatic system. These are all normal, right? And then I had 2 of them. I was like, and then it just clicked. I'm like, oh, and it went next day, gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
And because I got it, I figured it out. Yeah. That was it. That's how incredible this body is, and how in this place.
It's just amazing.
Reflection of our minds is.
It is, yeah. I meant to ask you as well. I mentioned it to Tom the other night. Have you ever looked at the work of Dr. Jerry Tennant?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He had that biomodular device. I was actually thinking about buying it.
Yeah, because if people wrap their head around the fact that as an electrical being, when you interfere with the electrical circuitry in your body, and it's on such a tiny, delicate frequency, everything changes.
Yes, exactly. Everything.
And the same with all this healing stuff as well. You don't need a lot of the right kind of stuff for your body to go, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you will notice changes quick. But one quick thing on the magnesium. When you are so deficient in magnesium, as many people are, you might be taking it to solve a particular problem, but your body says, that can stay. That is not on the critical list. We have a critical issue here you're not aware of. We're going to fix that up first. Then
Mhm.
we'll get around to that at some point.
Mhm.
Because I've had
Yes,
people
there's
say to me,
priorities.
yeah, absolutely, but they're not your priorities. Your body knows. Just keep giving it what it needs and it will work itself through.
It will work through, and you be patient and
Yep.
be diligent and
Yeah.
give it, and listen, and it always sorts out, always, even the big stuff, even the stuff you don't even think.
Yeah.
And don't fall for the witchcraft, because I find that the MDs, they have a crystal ball and they can tell you when you're going to die, or they can tell you, how many months you have left for a condition, or they can,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They tend to do that all the time, and they'll say terrible
Medical
things.
hexing.
Yes, medical hexing. And so they implant these witchcraft basic, like it's a spell
Yeah.
that they've given you that you go forward with. So just break the spell. Just
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
What if they've given you a date, if they've given you a timeline, just throw it away. It's garbage. It's
Yeah.
literally garbage. They're either they have science or they're predictors. Which I don't, like
I think
they're
witch is right. The witches.
the witch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't fall under their spell and believe
Yeah.
that information, because if you do, you can program that into yourself, and
Yeah.
you will expire at that point or around that
Yeah.
point, and it validates their hoaxing, their hexing. So
Yeah.
just don't believe the diagnosis. Just how many people, they take the story and they run with it. Now it's their story. Just stop. It's not your story.
Yeah.
And then clean it up. I've had end stage 4, like even stage 5, like cases, and all they do is clean themselves up,
Right.
stop the drugs. You have to go off the meds. You must.
Yeah. Yep.
You can't stay on them to be
No.
healthy. That they're opposing.
Yeah.
And so the first step I always do with my clients is like, what are you on? Here's how we're getting you off of those garbage things. And never shoot yourself up with anything again either, unless it's B12. And let's go forward with cleaning up your diet and cleaning up your lifestyle. And then it's in stages of healing. You start to see the healing progression take place every time. And after a while, you're like, oh yeah, I see what phase it's in. I see what stage it's in. And oh, don't worry, you're going to get swollen lymph now. It's normal. Oh, your enzymes will be high now. That's fine. That's the stage in which your body's going through that. And don't panic, relax. They'll invert it, and they'll tell you it's a problem. They'll try to make you scared and doubt yourself and doubt your process, so that you hand over your power to them. Don't fall for it. You don't need another scan. You don't need another poke and prod. Just trust what's happening to your body and just listen.
And support it.
And support it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And yes, there's going to be situations where people aren't ready for that, which is the hardest part, because then they make it complicated, right? So I've had to deal with, okay, if you want it complicated, I can make it all complicated for you if you like. I mean, if that's what you need, if you need to have all these different things and we're going to do all these things, fine. Here's what we're going to do. And you're going to learn that way, and you're going to set yourself right. And then those things are going to drop away one by one, by one, by one. See, when I see clients, I'm not going to keep them coming back as a customer for life. That's not my goal. I don't want that. I want them to learn. I want them to go with the knowledge of how they can take it forward and how they can apply those things again and again and again. If something ever comes up, they know they can use vitamin C and colloidal silver and DMSO and magnesium again and again and again for things to make corrections, right? They know they can learn about the plants that grow around them, and they can make tea, and they can make tinctures or whatever they need to. They know they can eat these foods and do this activity and have a coffee enema and deal with the urine therapy and all of these stuff. They can make those corrections. So that's the skill set that we all need. There's no interest in me. I would go back to painting or making soap or something. You know what I mean? So a lot of people think of themselves as a practitioner, as a business, so that they're constant. Like that's what this medical model is about. It's just money making and business and running them through the mill. And that if you're with a true healer, that is not what they're going to do. They're going to teach you how to understand your body, what's going on with your body, and give you the confidence then to do it, to be your own doctor. And that's to me the corrected way.
Well, that's absolutely right, Amanda. That is what all this is about. It's about helping people take responsibility for themselves and helping provide them with the tools so that they can do that for themselves and their loved ones and the next generations moving forwards. Like I said to someone, I haven't got your answers. I've got my answers, and I can tell you what I would do if I was sat in your shoes. But you must figure this out for you. But when you do, and you can use these tools because they'll work, but when you do, you're now responsible. And that's all. That's all. If we can all do this, and this is where I know we're headed. I think it's going to be absolutely magnificent because everyone will start to sparkle and shine. and all the
Mhm.
darkness will go away because, collectively the whole energy will rise and rise and rise and rise and rise. And it's going to be amazing. I can
Mhm.
feel it starting now.
Me too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got the first hints of it, when was it now? Well, I've gotten glimpses, but the real, like, feeling sort
Mm.
of it only a few weeks ago, not even
Yes.
quite,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, oh, okay, this
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah.
Finally, I feel the
Yeah.
change,"
Yeah.
and good things happening around me, like, personally as well. My own
Yeah.
mirrors are clean and reflecting really
Yeah.
fun things, nice things. There's still lockdown stress, there's still but that's okay, that's just the cocoon. So it's all right. It's
Yeah.
just in this area now, and but it will expand.
Yeah.
And you always are protected. You're always protected. And so if you go outside of that and that's too fast, that's too much, you would fail if you did it. So remember, rejection is protection. I always say that to myself. Rejection is protection. Don't take that personally.
Hmm.
That wasn't the right time. That wasn't the right timing for that. Keep etching it, keep shining it, keep buffing it, keep looking at it. The right time will come, and sometimes I need somebody else to say that to me if I'm in a moment of weakness. And that's why we also need loving people around us who are also, in integrity and in that
Hmm.
part of themselves in that adulthood where they can say, "Oh, remember, honey,
Yeah.
how brilliant and how, grounded and
Yeah.
that you are those things." So, and that reminder that we have that, and oh yes, silly me,
Well,
of
I've
course
seen
that's
I've seen so much more of that. The thought that I'm a very private man. I wanted nothing to do with the internet. I don't like it. I'd written my book as a reminder to myself. It wasn't really for anyone else. It was notes to me lest I forget. And then people wanted to read it, and I was sharing it and all the rest of it. And then when all this kicked off, I'd made some videos about health, DMSO, colloidal silver, and stuff like that. When this kicked off, I thought people are going to be terrified because they can't think. So I'm going to step up and I will do all of the stuff I'm doing. But at some point, we're going to make that transition away and talk about health and about how to empower people so that eventually we won't be needed anymore because all of
yeah.
our work will be done and I can go back to gardening.
Yeah, exactly.
How cool would that be?
Very cool. Very cool. And do whatever else is required of us at that point. There will be other activities, there'll be other
Well, there's tons, yeah.
necessities.
Well, an educational system that actually works. Tom mentioned it, and
Yeah.
I've said I was so concerned about the children because I spend a lot of time talking to them whenever I can to stop them, getting driven down this horrible place I see them getting taken to. But I was working out the other day to teach a child, not a child because they're not children, because children is a fictional name, they're little boys, little girls, to teach them what they need to know in terms of how to interact with the world. We could probably do that in 2 or 3 months, and the rest of the time they can get all their experience from their lives.
That's right.
Yeah,
Exactly. I've completely I'm unschooling my
yeah,
own daughter.
yeah.
Why would I participate? That's what gets me. People say, "Oh, well, I'm doing holistic and whatever, but I'm sending my kids to the." Why are you handing your children off to evil? I
Mhm.
don't understand. Oh, because 'cause they're at home, they're not do they don't have to do the schoolwork you
No,
think they have to do.
no, they don't.
It's just a structural model that you were indoctrinated into,
That's right.
and you think that that's the way you get ahead in life. That's all a lie.
Yeah,
How did they get ahead? How
you don't.
to be on 9 to 5 working,
No,
at McDonald's? That's not getting ahead. I mean,
no.
right?
Well,
So
this is why
teach
we need to
them
create new
these things.
systems. We need to create new
Yeah.
processes, new systems, which actually I think will simply be a take on what the old systems were.
And as we clear ourselves, we will know how it works.
Of
We
course we
will be
will.
given, we will
Yeah,
remember what it is.
yeah.
We're not even have to invent. It's all invented already.
Well,
We're
that's
just
why
going to
we're feeling
remember it
glimpses of
through.
it now.
I got lots of big glimpses. I got
Yeah,
lots of big signs.
yeah,
Things are coming.
yeah,
So
yeah.
but it is exciting, it's also daunting, and we have to take care of our our spiritual needs, our mental health needs, our emotional needs. All of those things have to be tended to, like as if you're tending to your garden, you're tending to the
Of course
garden
you do.
of your
Yeah,
spirit, right?
yeah.
And
What would you rather have done? Not participated in what I think will be the greatest transformation of the souls on earth that, you know, may have ever happened, or not been here to witness it.
yeah, of course. I was always asking, why the heck did I come here?
I've done that.
You
Really
know,
now? Why?
why? Really? I mean, do it did I have to? But now I'm starting to see glimpses of what's
Yeah,
happening and
yeah,
why and the reason for it and why my skill set or why does this knowledge
yeah.
have to be here and all of that. And it's starting
Mm,
to become more
yeah.
clarified. Yeah.
I am conscious you and I could talk a lot more, and I hope we can have another conversation. What I would like to say, first of all, is thank you for giving the time and the information, and to helping take this discussion into areas I never thought it would get to, and it's been fantastic. And is there anything you'd like to add, and how can people get access to your work and your information should they want to?
Well, I just want to remind people to, if they need to review this information, like take snippets of it and write it down and remind it, put it in
Hmm.
your reality. Like I'll write things on my refrigerator, like, you're worthy, or you're powerful, or whatever statement, just to retrain your mind into remembering that,
Mm.
not get sucked into the drama again. So little clues for yourself, or little even talismans of reminder. I have a little, I use a lot of crystals for that, or things that just remind me, because
Hmm.
our minds can get pulled back into
Yeah.
things. So
Speaking of crystals, I think there's a fairly huge one around my neck right now.
oh, very nice. Did you wrap that one
Yeah,
yourself, or did you buy it? Oh,
no, I found it and I wrapped it. I bought the silver, and then I found a nice leather shoelace and I put it on, and I clean it and bless it, and it's an incense smoke. And there's a lot going on with. I've got crystals all over the place.
I've
And
been
right,
using shungite a lot lately. This is a
yeah,
shungite piece, and
yeah,
and but anything that whatever you need,
yeah.
for your reflection, because it's about that,
It's
and
your
get
journey.
crystals.
It's your
It's your
journey.
journey,
Yeah.
and honor that journey. And then, and yeah, so I have a few, it's interesting how it's all gonna happen, but I have a few websites going right now, and actually moving the domains offshore,
Hmm.
because it's a better way to protect from all the criminals that want to,
Yeah.
whatever, meddle and
Yeah.
so forth. So I have yum naturals dot store,
Hmm.
and that's for the products that I'm making, and also
Hmm.
other things that I have,
Hmm.
including crystals. And I have yummy.doctor. So you don't need to add anything else. It's just the doctor is the domain. So
Hmm.
yummy.doctor. And that's where I'm engaging with people with the videos. Like I have my own server now because of all the censorship. And I have a blog that I'm very due to write onto, and I will get there eventually. And also I have mailing lists and signups there as well to keep in touch. I'm on Telegram. I really do recommend Telegram. So far, it's been untouched by
Hmm.
censorship. It's been just free to go, and we were getting a lot of collaborations going, a lot of communities going,
Hmm.
and there's a lot hopping on there. So I would suggest it. And my group on there is called Healthy Dose of Truth.
Hmm.
You can find me under my name, or Yum Naturals as well on there.
I'll
And
I'll put all the
then,
links in the description of the video and in the show notes for the podcast as
oh,
well.
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And then I do have, just for people just interested in the book, even though I'm selling it on my one website, I also have healingwithdmso.com,
Hmm.
just if it's
And
got a lot of information about the book.
I would
Yeah.
recommend people get that book. I know a fair bit about DMSO, and I read that and I was like, wow, it's all in one place. And I get asked questions now, and the first place I go is to look in your book to give answers.
Well, I wanted it to be handy,
Yeah.
and because DMSO is something that should be easy to use, and you should figure out how to have it in your day to day. And
Yeah.
if you need a little guide to remember, percentages or some
Yeah.
safety concerns, then you should be able to just flip through and boop, there it is, right?
Yeah.
So that's was part of
And it's for your
the
animals as
reason
well. It's not just for people.
for your animals. Yeah, if I mean, it's a beautiful substance that
Yeah.
once you get over some, like people say, oh, I'm scared because they are all this scary stuff out there talking about us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course there is. So just learn. Once you learn, then you don't have
Yeah.
fear, because you know what the
Yeah.
thing that you're not going to mix it with rust and put it on your skin. That's ridiculous, right?
Not if you're
But if
reasonably
you
smart, you won't.
yeah, well, yes, exactly. So it's just that little bit of knowledge, and
Yeah.
also what can happen if you use it in too high of a concentration. You can get a little bit of hives. But I've had cases where I use it in its pure form, and even knowing the hives will come, but we needed to use it like
Mhm.
that, and the hives fade and everything's fine.
Yeah.
But that was what was called for in that moment. Now that's for
Mm.
somebody who's a little bit more knowledgeable, but still, there's even the side effects of what people they've made you afraid of are really not that terrible. You know what I'm
No.
saying?
It
Yeah.
can't be bad. They can use it to store embryos cryogenically. Why would they use anything that was dangerous for that?
Yes, exactly. It can preserve tissue to that
Yes.
degree.
Yeah.
So thank you. And this has been lovely. And I really enjoy having depth of conversation about really important things, because I
Mm.
find this is a topic we can talk about all the jetsam and flotsam of things, but you're right. We have to get to the real meaning and the real
Yes.
kernel
I
of
think
all of
it's
this.
vital right now, moving
Yeah,
forwards. Otherwise, we will simply get trapped in the old dogma and the old patterns, and we now need to move forwards. Part of healing for me is to become aware of what the problem is and explore it and define it so that you can then heal from it. But if you stay stuck there, you're never going to escape. And I think now's the time to start really stepping on from that and providing solutions, ideas, support, nurturing that kind of thing, which is what I wanted to do with these conversations.
exactly. And that it's the time now to become unstuck and to be
Yeah,
brave and to face the thing that you were afraid to face.
yeah,
And usually when you do that exact action, you realize it was more of the illusion of the bad thing,
yeah,
and that that never came to pass. And
yeah,
after you're proud of yourself that you did it, and your self-esteem comes back, your soul is now no longer cracked, and you feel
yeah,
that you can handle more things, and that's where we need to be. And it's
yeah,
all an opportunity. It's an opportunity to stand up for yourself now. That's,
yeah.
I think, why the external projection is the way it is. It's like, I'm offering you to stand up for yourself.
That's right.
Will you now
That's
stand up
right.
for
Yeah,
yourself? Will you put a boundary there? Will you say that's enough? Or
yeah.
will you do it? Because it's pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing
Hmm.
to right to the corner
Yeah,
where you'll have no choice but to do it. So we'll wait for
fantastic.
some of those to catch up, but for now, I think we're blooming in the way that we're meant to bloom, and building the remembering the way to build
Yes.
this world again.
Yeah.
And
100%.
that's very, very exciting. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. This was an excellent conversation.
Thank
I
you. It's been
appreciate it.
very uplifting. I will let you know once I have created the video, which will probably be either tomorrow or Sunday, and the podcast. And then, obviously, if you want to do anything with those, just go ahead and do that. And
Okay.
I look forward to another conversation with you at some point in the future.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Adrian.
Blessings to you. Take care.
You as well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.